music to the noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine Pun Kelly get caught in the fray. Facts and logic with a twist of jest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor pulls the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows, dissect the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity when they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steampunk Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
Hope you're doing okay. Just need to send something here. I forgot to do something. How'd you like the Super Bowl? Any Seahawks fans in the audience? I think so anyway, I thought it was a good game. After it was kind of a rough start, but it was a good game. I do want to talk about the halftime shows. First time we've ever had to talk about a halftime show in the plural, because it's the first time where somebody threw enough of a conniption fit over who the performing was that they had to go and make a alternative halftime show. And pardon the pun, but seems like Kid Rock forgot to let that sink in. Get it? Sync, S-Y-N-C. I don't know if you've seen any of the footage, but apparently he was lip syncing and not very well, unless, you know, like he was throwing his voice down to his groin or something. But yeah, he did a very, very bad job of lip syncing. And Donald Trump didn't even watch it. I know this because Donald Trump, you know, threw a hissy fit about Bad Bunny's performance, because Bad Bunny's performance was in Spanish, which there are, believe it or not, other people in the world who speak Spanish and who like watch the Super Bowl. We even had games in like Madrid, which, you know, Madrid is part of Spain. I'll let you guess which country or what language they speak in Spain. I'll give you a hint. It's not Mexican. But yeah, so they threw their fit about that. And actually I don't speak Spanish. I know sí means yes. That's about it. I've never taken a Spanish class. I've lived in Texas for 15 years, but haven't really needed to learn it. So I haven't, as much as some people would like you to believe. No, you don't have to learn Spanish if you live in Texas now, especially with these apps and stuff that make things pretty easy. But anyway, I do not speak Spanish, but like as I tweeted yesterday, joy doesn't need translation. I thoroughly enjoyed the Bad Bunny halftime show. I just thought it was spectacular. I loved it. It was wonderful. It was just filled with joy. I was curious what it meant. So I went and I looked it up. There's a post I made a Twitter article about it that explains what the set list was and what the songs mean. But basically, it was a halftime show about love. And I think that message he had at the end of it really sums everything up, that the only thing more powerful than hate is love. And I thought that was quite a message. And I think it's quite telling. Oh, and one other thing about this, in case you hadn't heard, this was the coolest thing. So we were watching it. my wife and I. My wife doesn't watch the Super Bowl, but she does watch the halftime show. And so when the couple was getting married, the way they were looking at each other. They were looking like they were really in love. And so I was like, are they really getting married? And so I looked it up after the game, and they really got married. That was a real couple that actually got married. And what's cool is they kind of like on a lark invited Bad Bunny to their wedding. Bad Bunny's like, I got a better idea. How about you come to the Super Bowl and get married at the Super Bowl? So it's his idea. And so he like had them get married at the Super Bowl. It was a real legal wedding. And he was, on your wedding certificate, you have those 2 signatures. He was one of the witnesses that signed their wedding certificate. And then the part where Lady Gaga sang, that was their wedding reception. So imagine now telling your kids that, well, we got married in front of 110 million people. And Bad Bunny was one of the witnesses. Yeah, he was the most streamed artist in the world at the time. And Lady Gaga was, sang at our wedding reception. And they're like, Mom, you tell this story all the time. Stop embarrassing us. So anyway, I just think that is a cool story. That in a show where the message was love, there was actual love being celebrated. And of course, MAGA had to flip their wigs about it and throw a fit and, have a tantrum because, God forbid, other people in the world speak English or speak a language other than English. So, anyway, that was my take on that. I even before I found out about the marriage thing, I just thought the scene, the celebration of Latin culture, and like I didn't understand all of it. I didn't understand everything that was going on, but it was a happy, joyful thing. And afterwards, my main reaction was, you don't need to speak Spanish because you don't need to translate joy. I've lived in other countries, and just seeing that culture joyfully displayed, the way that the set was done. Somebody asked, what was going on with the guys on the telephone poles? I don't know, but like all of that stuff, I think maybe the guys on the telephone poles might have had something to do with the power outage after the hurricane. But that's just a guess. Anyway, I just thought the whole thing was really a celebration. On the alternative thing, they had a protest against love, I guess. I mean, how are you gonna protest love unless, like, what is the other side of that? What is the only thing stronger than hate? What is contrasted with love here? I mean, they chose team hate. That's the only way I can look at it. So just going to look through here at some of the comments. Some of the Eris Globalista, I'm going to imagine that has something to do with global. I don't speak Spanish, so it was power polls showing how poor the grid is. Yeah, so was that, Susan, was that connected to what was the deal with the guys on the telephone poles? It was power polls showing how poor the grid is. So that wasn't a reaction to with Hurricane Helena or whichever one it was. God bless everyone reading this. Jesus is the only way to heaven. He loves you and wants to save you. Power poles and giant weeds. Now a wedding. Very weird halftime. I thought it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was a celebration of the culture. Like, in case you don't know this, Walter, that setting was actually his hometown where he grew up, and like they actually had a replica of his coffee shop and stuff like that. That's where he grew up. That's what he brought there. Weddings are always weird. You should have been to mine. The weeds was sugar cane. I don't. Yeah, and and then there were the bananas and stuff. They were crops that are grown in Puerto Rico, and they say, oh, there wasn't any English, and there were 3 words of English he spoke. God bless America, right? And he named all the countries in North and South America, and I guess MAGA doesn't like that. When they say make America great again, they only mean, like the United States of America. Oh, Presidente Trump. Don't tell him that. He'll get offended. He doesn't want to be called president in anything but English. Trump did go on a rampage, a typical predictable rampage. The PR power grid gets little money from Congress, unlike here. Oh, interesting. I should dive into that more. I wonder, is that the same for other territories too, Susan? Is that do we tend to treat territories like the Virgin Islands and stuff as third world countries? Their power grid sucks. To gusto laws, I don't know what that means. Sorry, 1776. Like I said, I don't speak Spanish. So ridiculous. Aw, look at the little heart hugs. The Charlie King thing. Charlie King. Charlie Kirk. Oh, Charlie Kirk thing, yeah. The Kool-Aid drinkers are still on that train. They're so weird. That whole thing was just... I watched, just seeing some clips on it. And there was some guy that I don't even think his wife knows who he is. And then there was that performance by Kid Rock. Am I a Seahawks fan? No, I'm just a football fan at this point. When I grew up, I was a Dallas Cowboys fan, from until the mid 90s when the cocaine Cowboys happened. And there, if you never heard about it, Michael Irving basically threatened to kill one of his teammates, and Jerry Jones didn't do anything about it. And I was like, that's it, I'm done with them. So, and it was shortly after that they traded Emmitt Smith, and Troy Aikman retired. So I got to still cheer for Emmitt. I think that Emmitt Smith is the greatest running back of all time. Still, the dude won Super Bowls. Not too many backs you can say that about, including Barry Sanders. He wasn't. People want to just give the credit to his line. Well, other teams have had lines too. He ran through holes, and he also led the league almost every year in yards after contact. He broke a lot of tackles too. People forget that. It was so well thought out. Enjoyed. It was just pure. It wasn't a reaction to the criticism. If none of the criticism had happened, it would have been exactly the same. It was just a pure celebration of Puerto Rican culture. And it was beautiful. And it was fun. It made me happy to watch it. Yeah, whatever. Okay. All right. Yeah, we don't allow racism here, so you're gone. Yeah. Apparently, the Department of War doesn't have enough countries to make war on, so now we're making war on Harvard. Oh, well, we're still trying. Don't give up so easily. We're gonna find more countries to start wars with. But so I'm not any football fan now. I just love great football. That's all. I like the thing I like about this one is I like the Sam Darnold story. when she's actually still pretty darn young. He's not darn old. He's darn young. But anyway, I'm not a fan of any team, but I'm kind of like, for some reason, I really dislike the Jets. Always have. It's the way that everybody acts like every year is going to be the Jets' year, and and they just always suck. So I think it's funny that they finally drafted a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he didn't win it for them. It was so well thought out. Enjoyed it. Yeah. All right. So, see, it's funny. Everybody's okay with the guy singing in Spanish. Then when you put stuff in Spanish, you don't like it because you don't understand it. I didn't say I didn't like it. I just said I don't understand it. I didn't criticize it. I even said, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. And in case you're not paying attention, I said I didn't understand Bad Bunny either. So I went and looked it up afterwards. It's funny that you think those things are equivalent. What was murder? I don't know what you're talking about. Who was murdered? Oh, Charlie Kirk? Yeah, Charlie Kirk was murdered. I don't know what Charlie Kirk has to do with being murdered has to do with anything. Doesn't make the Turning Point USA halftime show any less hateful. Apparently, the Department of War doesn't. Okay, I don't know what. Hey, Mac Truck, how you doing? I noticed that you have a fake face. I bet you reek of your sister. Okay, I noticed the polar bears have been switched from Coke to Pepsi. I did not notice that. Okay. And terrible. Ha. Hello. So, I don't know what's terrible. So that covers my my thoughts on the halftime show. So anyway, I hope you guys liked it. Apparently some of you didn't. I noticed nobody like jumped in and defended the turning, nobody said they really enjoyed the alternate halftime show. They just like yelled about Charlie Kirk was murdered and stuff. So I'm not saying there's nobody exists that liked it. I'm just saying I haven't really seen that person say that they really, really liked it. It was kind of a disaster. But the ones that watch, most of the people that watched the real halftime show enjoyed it. All right, same as it felt to be young and irrelevant. Turning Point show is terrible. The All-American halftime show with the guy that had song, what was there were some lyrics he's written, like celebrating pedophilia, but we won't get into that. Kid Rock has song lyrics that are so offensive that if I were to quote them, I would get reported to you, or like YouTube would squish my channel. Okay, I'm not saying nobody loved it. I'm just saying I haven't seen anybody say it. I haven't seen somebody say they really enjoyed it and tell me what they really enjoyed about it. I see, like these inflated numbers. I noticed that they had like bots watching it. I don't think they count as people. Yes, says somebody that didn't watch either. Bad Bunny was a good show. Kid Rock failed miserably. Exactly. So yeah. Well, in case you missed my joke earlier at the beginning when nobody was here, somebody forgot to tell Kid Rock to let that sink in. Get it? Like sink, SYNC. Let that sink in. Because the lip syncing was terrible. Okay. Is Kid Rock even a kid anymore? No, how old is Kid Rock? That's a good question. I mean, he's definitely not a kid anymore. He's more like grandpa. Rock. 55. So he's basically 3 years younger than me. So if I'm old, he's old. But I don't try to pretend like I'm still a 20-year-old kid. Gay, bearded, homosexual. What is that? Gay beard. Does Bad Bunny identify as a bunny? No. Bad Bunny mopped the floor with Kid Rock. All right, so that's the first thing. Next thing I want to bring up is this. Wanted to talk about I wasn't here on Friday because I was sick, so I didn't do a show. And that's when the whole thing with Trump's 8 Mean thing came out, when he did the whole 8 Mean thing. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. First of all, there was like the changing story that first it was from Lion King, when, you know, there aren't any apes in Lion King. The little thing was not a Lion King thing. Number two, even if it was from the Lion King, it doesn't make it okay to call black people apes or to identify black people as apes. Anybody with a lick of sense knows that is racist. Then it was a staffer did it. And if you really believe a staffer did it, I think they revealed the name of the staffer is John Barron. Yeah, I think it was John Barron was the name of the staffer. If you believe a staffer did that, then you're an idiot. You're dumb enough to vote for Trump 3 times if you believe a staffer did that. Like some staffer is sitting around at midnight posting racist memes to Twitter, to Donald Trump's Truth Social account at the same time that Donald Trump is posting things to his Truth Social account. You know, and then it just happened to stay up there for 12 hours without Donald Trump noticing. It's just ridiculous if you think that's true. Donald Trump posted that. Let's not just, at least be honest. All right? Like, just be honest. You know it. Everybody knows it was not a staffer. It was Donald Trump. But if it's nothing harmless, if it's just faux outrage, like KKK Kaylee wants you to believe, then why blame it on a staffer? Was the staffer fired? No. If you were working for any company in the entire United States that tweeted out a meme with black people as apes, you would be gone within 5 minutes. Hang on a second. Let me check something out. Hey, Kitty, I sent you a link if you didn't get it. So somebody says somebody cut their grandpa. Okay. I technically am old enough to be a grandpa, but I don't think I'm old enough to be gotten by grandchildren that I don't have. It's on Blue Sky. I can resend it. Okay. In case something happened. I sent it late. So there she is. You want to say hi, Kitty, or do you want to just lurk?
Well, I don't mind being on to do the facial expressions and stuff and lurk, but I'm over here multitasking because we're working on Epstein file stuff, of course. So I've got some new volunteers that have come in, so I'm trying to orient them, and I've got some pages I've got to get written up, and we're contacting lawmakers. I've sent letters to the Oversight Committee and individual congressmen about offering supportive help and talking to them about the urgency to get Zorro Ranch under their control with a warrant and such. So that's what we're working on.
So there's a lot of, like, Jamie Raskin. I was watching a
Mhm.
press conference with him right before. Well, like one of those scrums they have where he was talking about the unredacted emails he had just read. And there was one in there that was about, like, from communications between Epstein's lawyers and Trump's lawyers, where they were saying Trump's position is that he was still allowed. He wasn't a member, but he was still allowed there, and it was like 2009 to Mar-a-Lago. So.
Yep. People are starting to get mad. The prime minister of GB just got kicked out of a pub. Europe is starting. I don't know if you've seen the tweets I've been sending you.
I have been. I've been real. Actually, that was one of the reasons I was hoping you'd pop on, because I keep thinking back to where when you were on the show last week, were suggesting we don't have to rely on the DOJ. Like, there's other countries that are getting involved, and the DOJ's filtering system doesn't necessarily apply to them. So the real breaks in the dam, the real cracks in the dam could be coming from other countries, right?
Exactly. And that is really where we're going to start to see justice happening. And so that's kind of what, that's why I said, no, there's going to be some where it's not going to be the maximum. But I do believe that as of today, with what I'm not unsure if you talked to your audience about it yet, but Ghislaine Maxwell pleaded the fifth and says she's not going to answer any questions unless she gets clemency.
Yeah, she'll say that Trump didn't do anything in exchange for clemency.
Right, exactly.
And which totally makes her testimony 100% credible, right?
Right, exactly. And so one of the things, so that's occurred today. They've started looking at some of the unredacted files today. And so now what I'm doing is I'm organizing some of my teams, and we're putting up new pages, and we have a new newsletter now that goes out every day of the updates of the updates. And it isn't just the Wikipedia updates. I go through and scan all of the media, actually not just in this country. I'm actually looking at the German media and the French.
Are you like secretly two people or something? How do you find time to do all this stuff?
This is all I do. I'm doing this full time now. This is what I do full time. This is my full time job.
But you still see clients?
About 6 or 7 a week.
Oh, okay. So you cut down on that a little bit.
Yeah, I've taken a sabbatical in order to just focus on this full time. So yeah, that's what's happening.
You're doing amazing work, my friend. Just keep being amazing. I really appreciate what you do.
Right. Well, I appreciate you too. So I've already had to go in and some of these racist in the chat. So just so you know, I'm on it today.
Awesome. Yeah. People missed you on Thursday.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, there was some people. You need a moderator. And I'm like, she's not here. So
well,
I banned somebody today. So
all right.
They have to be bad for me to notice it. But anyway, all right. I'm going to put you on like that. Oh, whoops. Okay, wait. Where'd you go? Oh, did you? Where are you?
I just turned my mic.
No, I'm wondering. Oh, there you are. Okay. Sorry, I was talking to the little window you, not actual you. All right, so now let's talk about the racist memes and the ape memes and why they are in fact racist as fornication. They are 100% absolutely, positively racist. This is like saying, it's even worse than saying, the fried chicken and watermelon memes are racist, because it's not just playing into old racist tropes. There is an ideology that is connected to the ape meme, which goes back to like the 1800s and Darwin. Now here's something that you may not know. I think it's interesting. If you've ever studied evolution and the adaptation of evolution. There was a guy, I think his name was Sinclair. I'm not positive, but the notion of evolution did not win over people by its scientific arguments regarding like nature and stuff. The actual it started to become commonly accepted as what we call social Darwinism. And social Darwinism is that different people and different races have evolved more than other races. And so this was like when you're talking about the Industrial Revolution, it started to be accepted that people would say, oh, well, you know, these people, these Italian people and, you know, Latino people and stuff, they're not as evolved. So it's okay to treat them less like people. And it was kind of, it became this, and they would use like bogus stuff about skull sizes and brain sizes. Like they would say, well, their skulls are smaller because they have smaller brains. And it was literally dehumanizing faux science that they were using to dehumanize people. And it was kind of the more pigment you have, the closer to the ape you were and the less evolved you were, was what they did. And so the whole notion of black people as apes was like they're barely human. They're barely even evolved into human status. They are not as evolved as white people are, like literally evolved as white people. They are less human than white people. And so this, you know, this is what the racist memes are. This is why they're racist. So when Donald Trump, the president of the United States, shares this meme against the backdrop of having Nick Fuentes over to the White House or to Mar-a-Lago for drinks and all the other racist stuff he's done, at some point you have to just admit he's racist, right? So in a lot of ways, I wasn't all that shocked by it. I wasn't even all that angered by it. But I was disappointed by the reaction of so many MAGAs. Because I was like, if I would say this sarcastically, Donald Trump could, you know, tweet images of the Obamas as apes and they would cover up for him. And I was being sarcastic. I was intentionally being hyperbolic because deep down I thought maybe this is the line that some people would actually draw. And some people did. To be fair, some people did, but a whole heck of a lot of people didn't. And then you had some people that were just weird. Like Tim Scott said, this is the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. And, you know, and I'm like, wait a second. So you're admitting that you've seen other white racist things out of this White House, and you've still been like going along with everything? What's wrong with you? So when people say that he's not racist or name one racist thing he's ever done, honestly, Obama as the apes might not even be the worst thing, but it's the most easily provable. And if you're still okay with that, at what point are you willing to say that's too far? Because when we start going into the next thing that I want to talk about with this show, which is TPS, and when I talk about this is blatant racism in policy, don't disconnect that from the fact that he is a blatant racist. Don't think that his tweeting Obamas as apes has something different than sending Haitians back to Haiti to die. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to look through the comments, and then I'm going to share today's slideshow, and we'll start talking about TPS. Which doesn't have anything to do with Turning Point. Trump fart a lot. Today I called Trump an asshole, and my asshole farted in protest. Maxwell, 100% involved in. Yeah, she's involved in child sex trafficking. On that note, on with the child sex trafficking thing, and I saw an interesting interview on this morning with one of the victims, and they were asking her, why don't the victims just name names? And she brought up that they're scared. The victims are scared. They've already been shown that they're not being protected by having their names not be redacted. If they mention a name, then they can get sued by the name that they mention. And they don't necessarily have the means to prove it beyond their word. And they don't have billions of dollars. What's his name? The Ossoff? Did you hear this one, Kitty? That Ossoff called these billionaires, this specific little niche of billionaires, he called them the Epstein class. Epstein class. I thought that was. Sorry, I can't hear you because you don't have your mic on, but
I said, I like that. I'm going to start using that.
Epstein class. Isn't that good? We are all just sitting around and hoping that somebody can do something about the baby eaters. They couldn't have, and that's not really here nor there. Someone runs for president of the United States, wins the election. Your question is, have they ever taken on? No, that is not the question. The question is, has he ever taken any responsibility? Not has he ever taken on responsibility. Do you have a literacy problem? You can take on responsibility and then fail and then not take responsibility for your failure. They're two different questions. Kevin, we have a little thing called the Constitution here. No third term. Okay. If you have to say I'm not a racist, you are in fact racist. And here's the honest truth. When some people, yeah, I guess there's no such thing as the dishonest truth, is there? So here's the truth. Anybody that says they're not a racist is lying. Like at some point and some level, we all have racist tendencies and racist inclinations because we are raised in a society where racism is so entrenched in it and so steeped in it that it's hard to really not identify it while it's there. And I am not saying this as a white person. I am quoting quoting Ibram Kendi in How to Be an Anti-Racist. And he points out that being an anti-racist starts within. And he talks about how even as a black kid growing up, he would have racist inclinations and be thinking that a black man has to behave in a certain way or that black people react in certain ways, or, and so he had racist inclinations. And so the first part of being an anti-racist, for people that have never read the book, is to reject those thoughts, to say, no, I do not accept this thought. I'm not a racist, and I reject this as an anti-racist. So anybody that says I'm not a racist has just never dealt with whatever racism is in them. And I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, or blue. And by the way, I actually shouldn't say blue because there aren't people that are blue. So there is one person that is orange, but that's not really a race. That's a narcissism condition. We are being racist to gaslight. You're just naive. You're just too. Okay. Have you ever studied grammar? Wyoming, the best state I have ever been. Gillette City, the best. Don't know what Wyoming. Woke MAGA is finished. There was no, so. All right, so. Why we don't want to preach to you. We just want to tell you the facts, which you are not paying attention to. Yeah, MAGA is really, really, really hard. They have a hard relationship with facts. Facts don't like them. Who's panicking about what?
They're estranged.
Estranged.
They have an estranged relationship with facts. They don't speak.
I've been so yesterday. So here's my. I'll tell you this. My you know how I love to cook, right? And I kind of get into the chemistry of cooking stuff. And so this weekend I made for yesterday's meeting or yesterday's game, I made these chicken wings. And I used sunflower lecithin. I think that's how you say it. And the breading, because lecithin is a emulsifier, and it basically bonds water and fat. And so the using it in the dredge makes the wings crispier. Using it in the hot sauce made the hot sauce stay together better, and using it in the dip made the dip stay together. So I was kind of just thinking about emulsifiers and how amazing they are, and especially sunflower lecithin is really awesome because you just need a little tiny bit and it doesn't change the flavor at all. But I was thinking that's what when you were just mentioning that's what MAGA needs. They need a truth emulsifier, something that will bond MAGA and truth together, because they're mutually contradictory, like oil and water. So MAGA needs a truth emulsifier. That's what they need. They need a not sunflower lecithin. They need a sunlight lecithin. What do you think? We don't want to preach to you. Okay. The skull-shaped pseudoscience is still used today in cell. Yeah, it's just, I mean, at a certain point, you just. All right. Hey, Brett, how you doing? So he didn't know about the sombrero video that he posted too with Jeffries and Schumer. Oh, yeah, right. I forgot about that one. Yeah. Or the taco salad he ate when he said Happy Cinco de Mayo or whatever that one was. The facts are English is not the primary language in well, in the entire Americas, maybe. I don't know. But in the United States of America, I looked it up. About 30% of the U.S. speaks at least some Spanish. Is conversant in Spanish. Did you guys watch the halftime show? I watched I thought that the Bad Bunny the Bad Bunny halftime show was excellent. I did not watch the Kid Rock halftime show because I would rather put bleach in my eyes. I saw a couple of clips online. Okay, now MAGA crying about Bad Bunny so much they needed their own Kid Rock rap and all. Yes, and by the way, has anybody, I don't know because I don't follow the nonsense that much, has anybody pointed out that Kid Rock's entire act is cultural appropriation? Is that not a thing? His entire act is just cultural appropriation. You have a house guest, Kitty? Oh, you're still on vacation.
I'm here visiting my mother.
Oh, that's what's
yeah,
going on.
my adopted mom.
Okay,
That's why
I
I'm
just
here
saw
in
somebody
Florida.
walk behind you. Is that your mom?
Yeah, that's my adopted mom, my spiritual mom. So yeah.
Well,
You
good for you.
wrong. Yeah. I had a really shitty one that I had. Oh, excuse me. I had a really
poopy,
terrible mom. I had a really poopy mom. So, but that was fine. It was worth it to be able to get a really quality one later in life.
Come up with a cussing to um
I need to come up with better.
monetized dictionary.
I know, right?
Like, I like using fornicated because it's pretty much means the same thing and still starts with F. People
Yeah, I don't know.
immediately know what you're referring to.
I should find some cat pun ones,
There you
like,
go.
you know, suck my litter box. or
Oh,
something.
there you go. Meow off.
Piss off. Like piss off. Piss off.
That would be litter box off. All right. Anyway, greatest halftime show ever, and the best team won. It was the best Super Bowl ever. Gonna guess you're not. Are you a Seahawks fan, or are you a fan of whoever is playing the Patriots? Because I know some people that are both. I think the people that are fans of whoever playing the Patriots might have been the happier of the two, but I think some of that joy is gone since Tom Brady isn't there anymore. If you have if you have money, power, or fame, you're involved directly. Zero except. Well, no, there are exceptions, and it's spelled EXCEPTIONS. Not everybody that has money, power, or fame is a child rapist. And I think that this is. Do you know what a poisoning the well fallacy is? Do you know what that means? Maybe you should look it up. I hit the like button with my tip. Oh, wow. We got starred stuff going on here. Thank you for the tip. I appreciate that. Don't see where that is. Anyway, I do appreciate that. Man, we got all kinds of. Didn't realize you were going through and marking out the chats. Man, I got huh?
I thought it might help, so you can.
Yeah, no, I love it when you do that. It definitely saves me time. I just wasn't. I was too busy going through the. Okay, that is sort of true. Racism does insist upon itself. It usually does so by creating an adversarial scenario. They're coming to get you. It's always the underlying message. And it's like, I noticed this with racism. I also kind of noticed it with misogyny. And here's like an example of how just dormant misogyny can take over your thinking. My wife was talking to me about ChatGPT and how she had this whole thing happen with her mother, that without going into a whole bunch of things, that basically her mother had Parkinson's, went into the ER with a UTI, and they basically convinced her brothers that she was on her deathbed and she was dead like a week later because they, didn't give her medical care. And she basically just starved to death. And my wife was bothered with a lot of things, including the way that the whole situation was handled. And so she's ordered all the medical records and everything, and she's done all this research. And then she had this idea to upload everything to ChatGPT and have ChatGPT analyze everything, and it confirmed a lot of what she had to say. And she was just like really talking about how awesome ChatGPT was. And as she was talking about that, I just noticed she kept referring to ChatGPT as he and not it. And I was like, that's just one of those little subtle misogynist things. Like, oh, this thing is teaching me and I am learning from this thing, therefore it's a he. It's like one of those things where we subliminally have a misogyny. We have like subliminal misogyny and subliminal racism and things like that. And it's even if you aren't a sexist or a racist or something, these little thoughts can fester, and you have to recognize them when they're there and then reject them when you see them. That's where the real fight starts. And that's why, like, when you white guilt or whatever, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I'm not feeling guilty if I notice that I have a racist thought and reject it. I'm not feeling guilty if I have a sexist thought and reject it. Here's another example. I was in a work meeting one time, and there was like my two main coworkers were both women, and I was the only one that would ever like be on camera for a lot of the Zoom calls. And I was, like one day I was just in a pissy mood and was kind of annoyed by it and didn't say anything. And then one of them was like, I need to put my makeup on before the next meeting. And when she said that, it like just really struck me. When I get ready for a Zoom call, I go like this, when women have to get ready for a Zoom call, because this was all work from home, like they have to put their makeup on and do their hair and do all this stuff because the society has conditioned them to think differently. And so like me being annoyed that they weren't putting their face on during the Zoom call was just a little, not an aggressive kind of misogyny, but it was a little subtle misogyny thing to expect women to put their makeup on just so that they can have a Zoom call with me. So anyway, things like that are really helpful. Like you have to reject those thoughts to grow as a person, and you can't reject them if you're not observing them. But Clinton is in the file, so clearly it's all the Dems. Yeah, I don't even know why Hillary. I don't even think Hillary Clinton is in the files. I don't know why she's there. Is Hillary Clinton in the files? Kitty? Hillary Clinton is in the files? Okay. You're the expert. Anybody that helped traffic and rape women belongs in prison, or girls or boys, children at all. They belong in prison. That's I'm not even like something else, just another random thought. Noam Chomsky apparently had a relationship with Epstein, and I have an enormous amount of respect for Noam Chomsky. He's one of the most brilliant men of my lifetime. And I see that and I'm just like, that really bothers me that Chomsky had that. Like, I'm not going to defend even people that I, had a lot of respect for. Sorry, Kitty.
He's a pedophile. His wife came out with a statement yesterday you should read.
I've read she didn't say he was a pedophile, did she?
No, they're doing their best to spin it, but
yeah, it was what I saw was a lot of spin, and it was, and he's basically trying to tell Epstein how to polish his image up, right? And it's like, dude. So, and I noticed that in terms of like, he is a hero to a lot of people on the left, and the people he's a hero to on the left, I don't see them rushing to defend him. I see them saying, this is really, this gets me. Unlike Trump, where they want to defend him and race. I don't see anybody defending Clinton. I don't see anybody defending Chomsky. All right. The talk show crowd is definitely still drinking the Kool-Aid with the guy. I'm surprised they still get back. I'm sorry, Walter. I'm not sure what that is referring to because I got so far behind in the comments. I'm really bad about falling too far behind. I go on these like little breadcrumb trails. Kid Rock is proof that bad education is not limited to the amount of money you have. He grew up with money. Yeah, he likes to pretend like he grew up like a poor white person or something. TPUSA 5.1 million with bots. Puppy Bowl 12.8 that whole thing is like anybody like there apparently a lot of their millions, a lot of the numbers they're coming by with that 25 million with are from you will appreciate this, Brett and Kitty. A lot of those numbers are coming from the vertical stream on YouTube. And anybody that has ever spent any time on my show knows, like, just amplify that up by several million, you know. But you know, I can watch my show and I'll have like a 15 or 20% jump in viewers in like 5 seconds. And I mean, like I just went from 183 to 195 to 184 in 2 seconds. Like as soon as I started talking about bots, they jumped off. The bots are real. And if you know, for something like this, I imagine I've heard it's probably more accurately like 1 million. I wonder, who do you think? What do you think happened? Do you think more people actually saw the Melania movie or watched the TPUSA show live? Or is it a trick question? No people watched it. It was all bots. 135 million Bad Bunny versus 5 million Kid Rock at best. And that's just live. No, Teddy, sir, you, sir, for some reason, are completely wrong about every single comment you have made this. I don't know who's Teddy. Did Teddy get banned? What Teddy is he talking about? I don't know. Oh, there's a Teddy. TPUSA. Am I the only one that can't help but like every time I see TPUSA? I mean, Junior High Kelly.
Toilet paper. One of my favorite art protesters here in Tampa, who's amazing. He runs like a group that's the I Scream group. He and his bride made the most beautiful when we crashed it was Charlie Kirk's last event, as a matter of fact. And they made this giant toilet paper roll with all of the things about them that we used as a protest art piece. It was great.
I mean, I go so junior high on that. So junior high. Sadly, people are waking up to this fact right now. You have to pick a side. And you are on the side of the states or you are on the side of the federal government. I'd like to hear more of what you mean by that. I would say I'm on the side of the Constitution, and that both the federal government and the states have a role. But the current federal government is being usurped by one authoritarian leader. So right now you're either on the side of the Constitution or you're on the side of Trump and the Trump administration. I would phrase it that way. There are some states that are happily yielding to him, and there are some states that are fighting against him. This is not about states' rights versus federal rights. This is Trump versus the constitutional rights. 5 million people watched TP. Well, it's not documented that there were people that watched. It's 5 million entities watched. There were 5 million things viewing it, but whether or not those 5 million things all represented people is another story. Turning Point USA's All-American halftime show drew approximately 5 to 6.1 million. Speaking of moms, how does someone even know? Oh, yeah, I've been more or less like, I mean, I hope they find her. I feel bad for her and feel compassion for her and stuff. But I have not invested a lot of time in it. That one sheriff annoys the hell out of me. It's like he goes to press conferences and then gets all pissy if somebody asks him questions. It's like, take a chill pill, dude. That one, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but the sheriff over there. 3 months ago, Paul Market odds had Democrats at a 63% chance to win the House in the 2026 midterm. Since then, it has gone all the way up to 83%. I think that's still too low. You just put your money on it. They're going to win. The one guy in Texas that won, and I know it was a special election and stuff, but that was a 30-some point swing in a district that hadn't gone Democrat in almost 50 years. That the fact that they emailed these things to each other as well, I think it's just they genuinely didn't believe anybody would ever find out or care or be able to do anything about it. The only derangement is among Trump supporters who think Trump is doing a good job. This is true. Anyone in the files guilty of crimes needs to be held accountable. Party affiliation does not matter. And I mean, I don't know how, for the most part, I find it ironic that the only ones that actually point this out are Democrats. Like, I do not, like, I would love to hear Trump supporters say, I don't care if Trump is, if Trump is guilty, Trump should go to prison. Like, you do not hear them say that. They just, well, they would, they just defend him. They don't say, they don't even consider the possibility that the man mentioned in the Epstein files more than anybody else. Here's a fun fact for you, a Super Bowl related fact that I looked up yesterday. The high end has like over 30,000 times his name is mentioned in the Epstein files, right, Kitty? She's nodding yes. She's not on the screen anymore, but she's nodding yes. Over 30,000 times. It was like 38,000 or something like that. Both starting quarterbacks in yesterday's Super Bowl, if you total all of their passing yards in their entire careers in the regular season and the playoffs and combine them, they have fewer passing yards combined in their careers than Donald Trump's name is mentioned in the Epstein files. So that's a fun fact for you. That means his name is in the Epstein files a lot. And but like they want to pretend like that doesn't mean anything. I'm always surprised when people find out that he's racist. He's always written, yeah. I mean, he is racist. 35. I've seen like 3,500. I've seen 1,000. I've also seen 35,000. I personally haven't counted. Toilet paper USA. Woohoo! Wipeout! I just, at first I was, the Beach Boys song, the Wipeout. At first I was bothered by the different pronunciations of Epstein, but frankly, nobody should respect the pronunciation of that bag of skeletal dust. Yeah, I accidentally use both. I keep trying to figure out which one it is. And think of like Einstein, right? Like it's Stein. But then I heard one of the victims say Epstein. And so I'm like, okay, rhymes with spleen. The only place the Toilet Paper USA stream was available was YouTube. It's documented at 5 million. But a lot of those, like I technically get a lot of people watching my live stream that aren't watching my live stream. I get that they had accounts. But I'm just saying all those accounts aren't actually backed with people. I would love it if there were, because then I could make more money off of my account. Even Trump didn't watch. He watched Bad Bunny because he complained. Yes, I was mentioning that earlier. He complained about the Bad Bunny thing, but he never said a thing about the Kid Rock thing. My theory on bots is they're being used offensively to record other streams and report back, as well as to get mass report. I think a bot might have reported my channel for, believe it or not, talking about Epstein. Nobody watched the Melania movie. Not even Barron. Even Barron didn't go. I don't get why they watch this. Why they watched the Super Bowl. You're giving money to the people who hate you. And you think what? Watching a different halftime shows? I don't know. I don't think that Sam Darnold hates anybody. I would be ashamed to say I watched Kid Rock. Oh, was it like a hate watch thing or was it a curiosity thing? Oh, I would be ashamed. You would be ashamed. Okay, so yeah. Well, some states are trying to. I see. He says it would be a shame to, would be a fallacy to think that the state is going to protect you against the federal government, and some states are. James Tallarico, are you here in Texas? I love, like, I love James Tallarico and I love Jasmine Crockett, and I'm just glad one of them is going to be my senator. I just don't know which one it is, and I don't know which one I'm going to vote for. I want to. I'm withholding until they debate, and I like that they've been respectful to each other so far. I found it funny that Turning Point had Charlie Kirk pictures flashing behind Kid Rock when people inside the organization itself believed that the organization had something to do with Kirk's death. I see. I don't get into those weird Charlie Kirk conspiracies. So Biden followed the yes, Biden and Obama followed the Constitution. My TPUSA is 2-ply, extra cushioned. If you are not part of the grassroots organization that is supporting the Constitution, you're going to be backing the wrong team. James Tallarico is too good, honest, polite, and sincere. That will be a problem to the president of the United States because politics is too dirty and a lot of fraud. He's also, honestly, too Christian. I think that they're going to really have trouble with the. He is a sincere, Christ worshiping Christian. He's not perfect, but he sincerely practices the Christian faith. He doesn't weaponize it. One of my favorite quotes, because I spent 15 years as a Christian minister. I still consider myself a Christian, but one of my favorite quotes was Saint Francis of Assisi, who said, "Preach the gospel always, and when necessary, use words." Like your life should be your testimony of your Christian faith, not going around and attacking people. And you don't see the only people in the entire Bible. If you ever read the Bible, if you ever read the New Testament, even if you just read the Gospels, where Jesus is, can do that in like one day. But the only people Jesus ever criticized were the people that spent most of their time criticizing other people. The hypocrites. Donald Trump is a traitor, period. He literally tried to overthrow the country. Bad Bunny is an American. That's right. I was joking yesterday that, he was some foreign Puerto Rican dude. And some people missed the joke. Because it's hard to do parody in the age of MAGA, because they literally think that, which is what makes it funny, but it also makes it like a little too close to the line. All right, so Bad Bunny is more American than Caleb McGarvey. Is that was that one of the guys that sang at the halftime show, the fake halftime show? Tallarico would be 100 times better than what we have there now. I would have 1,000 James Tallaricos over at Ted Cruz, or what's his name, the guy that's leaving. There's no going back now. The genie is out of the bottle. It's full idiocracy going forward. The whole country is getting dumber. Speaking of idiocracy, I was Idiot Nation, Green Day. Somebody was complaining that Green Day has gone political. They were saying that they used to love Green Day until they went political. And I'm just like, Idiot Nation is about you. Like, you love that song. Idiot Nation is about you. Anyway, you didn't see her expression, but Kitty was reacting to that. All right. Let me go on to, I do have a correction to make. I like to correct myself if I am wrong about something. And I said something about TPS status last week that I was wrong about. TPS status is you don't come over here on TPS status. If you're over here and then TPS is granted, then you have TPS status, but you have to be over here at the time it's granted. Hang on, let me see if I can find a better. Why is it doing that? What is this? Oh, the whole thing is messed up. Oh, where down this? Well, that's a bummer. It's formatted badly. Oh, wait, does this work? I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, we'll just have to get through as best we can. I'm sorry. All right. So this, for some reason, did not format well. It's too wide for the screen. But I can share it with you here. Once again, in the comments. And it's in the description. So if you want to look at it, you can. This is the slide deck for today. Oh, by the way, I've got some news. Before we go into that, I am launching a website, hopefully later this week, machinepunkelly.com. And on machinepunkelly.com, I will have all the slide decks that I make. And there will be a link to all the slide decks so that if you watch a show later and want to get back to it or whatever, you'll be able to go in and see everything. So anyway, so back to my correction. TPS is temporary protected status, and what happens and we'll go into this some more, but I had said you can come over here on temporary protected status legally. Technically speaking, I was wrong. Technically speaking, you can't come over here on temporary protected status. Temporary protected status is granted, and if you are already over here when it is granted, then you automatically receive it. However, you can be over here legally or illegally when that happens, and you still get protection status. Seems like probably the majority of people that are here that get it did enter legally because of issues we'll get into later. So what I said was not entirely wrong, but it was inaccurate. And so just in the spirit of learning and trying to be accurate and not trying to spill disinformation, I'm just correcting myself on the record. I did some more studying and I was wrong about that. So just want to fix what I was saying. Bad Bunny does not hate our country. I wanted to mention about the Olympians. You're seeing some of the same kind of stuff. Donald Trump is not America and MAGA is not America. Criticizing Donald Trump or America is not criticizing the country. Just want to clarify that. You can love our country and criticize Donald Trump. Corporate accounts, hold please. All right, so I'm going to try to read through this as best I can. I apologize for the, don't know why it ended up being weird. I'll have to figure that out and see if I can fix it. But going back to the demo, so temporary protected status, what is it and why courts keep blocking terminations? Wonder if, well, hang on, maybe I can try this. Let me try this. This might work. To where? No, still not working that way, but will work this way. All right, so we're just going to do it this way. I think this is about the best we're going to do. Apologies for the weirdness, but at least you'll be able to see the whole thing. I don't know what happened. This is new. All right, so, whoops. All right. So, hide comments. All right, so, temporary protected status. What is it and why courts keep blocking it? We can close this out. What is TPS? It's a humanitarian protection for foreign nationals already in the United States. It's granted when home country, when the home country of the immigrant faces ongoing armed conflict, environmental disaster, epidemic, or other extraordinary temporary conditions. Provides what is it? It provides protection from deportation and work authorization. It's not a pathway to enter the United States. So, like I was just saying, if you're already over here, if you're already in the United States, you get some protection from being deported back. If you're not over here, and we'll go into this more later, you can't enter the country on because it has TPS status. It's actually maybe a criticism of it, and a lot of people seem to misunderstand this and actually even misapply it, calling it like this is suggesting that's a reason, like you're just making people, you're giving people an open invitation to come over here, but it doesn't do that. Okay. No rights for illegal, whatever that means. You are not getting, no one is illegal until adjudicated as such. All right, so we're just talking about temporary protected status right now, not weirdoisms. Okay, so if you are here and TPS is granted your, so like if you're a Haitian and then they say Haitian has TPS and you're already over here, regardless of what your legal status was when you came over here, whether you're over here on a visa, whether you were over here legally, as long as you can prove you were here on the effective date, you get you can be here on TPS. Okay, the statutory language. Let's look at what the law actually says. I'm gonna let me see something. Yeah. Okay, it says the Attorney General, the statute says the Attorney General, but this has been modified to now the Secretary of Homeland Security, may designate a foreign state if the Attorney General finds that there is an ongoing armed conflict within the state or an environmental disaster resulting in a substantial but temporary disruption of living conditions. You can get TPS. The key requirement is the Secretary must review country conditions and determine whether conditions for designation continue to exist. So every 6 months, the Secretary of State or the Department of Secretary of Homeland Security now, Christine O.M. has to actually review what's going on in that country and determine whether or not it is safe to go back. And this is a statutory review that has to meet statutory requirements. This is not a just make it up thing as you go along, or just because the Secretary of Homeland Security said so. There actually has to be conditions met in order for TPS status to be lifted. This gets really important. We'll go into all of this more in more detail, but this is what the statute says. This is the actual law, and I think that you have to understand, if you're going to say that laws matter, then laws have to matter. If you're going to talk about being illegal or illegals or whatever, then you have to like consider the possibility that laws matter. You have to consider what the law actually says and not just parrot stupid things. Okay. MAGA don't have no good reading skills. MAGA thinks that the 3 R's all start with R. When it turns into half the country, it might be something different. This is definitely a point that I'm going to be discussing, houses. That's it. They're saying that the secretary doesn't have to follow the orders of the previous POTUS because the previous POTUS was too incompetent to know what he was signing. Yeah, well, that is not a legal argument, and it's not one. I mean, it's just like no. And a lot of the people that a lot of these that's not what the law says at all. So what a weird thing to say. This has nothing to do with TPS. Well, we can discuss these things, which is very, we'll get into all that. I'm just trying to keep this in the order that the slideshow is presenting it in. So even though I don't know, I'm kind of annoyed with the way that the slideshow got all messed up somehow. I don't know how that happened. Okay. So who is eligible for TPS? One, you have to be physically present in the U.S. before the designation date. So if the designation date was March 9th, you have to be physically in the country March 8th. And that's like have your paper stamped. So if you got here at 11:59 p.m. and your paper didn't get stamped until 12:01 a.m. the next day, then you do not qualify for TPS, even though it's like 2 minutes. You could have a father and son, technically, one qualify and one not. You have to be a national of the designated country. So you can't just come over here from Haiti. You actually have to be a Haitian national. You must have continuously resided in the U.S. since the specified day. So like if you came over here a year ago from Haiti, and then you went back to Haiti for 3 weeks, and then you came back here, then in going back to Haiti for those 3 weeks, then you're kind of saying that it was safe then to go back to Haiti, but not now. So like you can't leave after you've arrived. And you cannot have certain disqualifying criminal convictions, which even under Biden, there were people that they found out there were criminal convictions and they were returned. And I used Haiti as an example. There are actually a lot of countries with a lot of presidents that have had TPS, which is why the whole thing with the Biden thing, one of the big issues with, Biden was, I mean, the whole premise that Biden was incompetent is immaterial and just a Fox News thing. It's not, there's no valid reason to say that. There's no medical evidence that he was demented or anything. That's just stupid. That's all that is. It's just stupid. I feel like sometimes we spend too much time discussing stupid. Okay. So what TPS provides and doesn't provide, what you get protection from deportation. You get employment authorization, like you're allowed to work if you're here on TPS status, which is what happened with those Haitians in the dog and cat eaters in Ohio. They were actually just employees of a factory that actually they saved the town with their employment, something that JD Vance seemed to forget about. Ability to apply for travel authorization. So you can travel to, like once you get TPS, you can travel to other countries and come back. What you don't get, there's no pathway to green card or citizenship. No ability to bring family members. You must renew every 6 to 18 months. Well, you don't need to renew, but the TPS has to be renewed, which is what the DHS does. Can be terminated when conditions improve. And that's a big thing, when conditions improve. So just saying that they're better doesn't mean that they're improved. And that's one of the big things that's going on in the courts right now, is that we've got like travel advisories to Haiti saying it's not safe to travel there, but we're also saying that it's safe to return there. So it's like, why are you saying this place is so dangerous, but you're also saying it's not dangerous? It actually has to be safe. The whole point of temporary protected status is not to have more people so that Democrats can get more state legislatures. It's so that people don't get murdered. It's like literally protecting them. People die in these countries and they're trying to evade death. Like sometimes I wish we could just like talk about things as human beings and not Democrats or Republicans or MAGAs or wokes or whatever they want to say. Illegal immigrants can't vote. Yeah, now what I totally 100% know and agree and all of that, and done whole shows on it. I'm just saying that one of the things that they like to say is that the populate the state, the allocation of representatives in the House of Representatives is based on population. And that population, whether they're citizens or not, or even legally residents or not, is not, it doesn't matter. All of that is just people live there. And that's why you have Donald Trump trying to rig the census and whatnot. And so one thing that like Elon Musk wants to do is pretend that Democrats are importing illegals so that we can win the House back or some weird nonsense. So no, hold your little Mr. Clean horses there. Joe is a perfect candidate. And his underlying had full control. Blah, 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 blah. My statement is not fallacious. I'm not making a statement. I am just representing what the law says. Okay. A big problem is the actual leader of these countries. They're taking huge kickbacks, but there's no. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know which country you're talking about or what. Like, this is just too vague. There's every single country is different. TPS is different in every single, like the reasons for TPS are different. And it's like people don't understand that Afghanistan and Haiti are very, very different situations. I'm just checking what year it is. in 2026. Oh, yeah. Okay. Trump is in the White House. Okay. Just checking. So many people talking about Biden. Do you support Israel? And I'm not trying to get anything started. I'm got a whole bunch of stuff on the whole Israel Gaza thing. This is just not the place to discuss this. Israel is not a country where TPS is recognized. We're talking about DPS today. Demographics or density. Yeah, well, but TPS has nothing to do with any of that. And by the way, there's no reason that Republicans can't have people with TPS living in their districts. He's talking about the trope about Puerto Rico. Oh. That's a dumb thing to say. The federal government can't be. Where do you think money comes from? The money fairy? The same garbage is said to be some degree about Haiti, but the main difference about Puerto Rico is that they're all pocketing. What a weird thing to say. Okay, first of all, Haiti is a different country and Puerto Rico is an American territory. But you shouldn't even give them that argument. There is no evidence of a legal voter. Oh, no, I'm not giving them any argument at all. I'm just addressing a different argument as being differently stupid. I'll get it. Let me go through things in order. There's a reason that I have these things in order. All right, so when it's been granted, let's talk. Like, we've got some stupid things going on here, and like people are trying to make it sound like everybody that's over here on asylum, it came under TPS, came here under TPS under Joe Biden. Most of the people that are here were here before, or it has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Like there's, So let's go through. El Salvador was started. TPS there started after some earthquakes, and then it's just been an upheaval ever since then. It continued through 2024. Joe Biden actually ended that one. Honduras. That one started under Hurricane Mitch. So El Salvador started under George Bush. Honduras started under Bill Clinton after Hurricane Mitch. Nicaragua started in 1998 under Hurricane Mitch. Haiti started in 2010 under Barack Obama. Sudan started in 1997 under Bill Clinton. These are the ones that have had it for a long time. Recent designations include Venezuela, 2021, which I think there was something else connected with Venezuela that Trump authorized. Afghanistan, the Taliban takeover. That was a thing that at the time everybody was all for. And Joe Biden was being criticized by Republicans for not getting enough Afghans out of there. That it helped us. And then Ukraine in 2022 and the Russian invasion. So all these, in every single one of these cases, these are people that were here before TPS was granted. Yeah, in every one of these cases, you had to already be here when TPS was granted. So if you're from El Salvador and you got here in 2002, you don't qualify for TPS. You had to have been here before the date that it was granted in 2001. So here's some examples where TPS was ended. The Bosnia-Herzegovina post-war recovery, like once the war settled down and things were recovered, people went back. Kosovo, post-conflict stabilization. Kuwait, after the Gulf War, people were sent back. Liberia, where I used to live, end of the Civil War. That place was just terrible for like 20 years. They didn't have like running water or electricity. Sierra Leone, peace agreement. So what happens is there's a process. There's security reviews and there's like a checklist of conditions. Are they being met? Then once it's determined safe return is possible, they're given a transition period. Typically, that transition period is supposed to be at least 60 days. Like you have 60 days at a minimum to leave. But typically, the transition period there's been a grace period, usually around 18 to 24 months, even under Trump 1, and then it's terminated. So that's the way TPS has worked historically. That's the way it's meant to work. TPS is not an alternate route to gain permanent status or citizenship. It is for countries that become so destabilized that it's just not safe to live there. And so we don't believe that you should have to like die just because you were born somewhere. So we accept people from other countries and we allow them to live here legally with employment status and stuff like that until things are safe to go back. And then we expect them to go back. And traditionally, that's what has happened. That's what we've done. Except in cases where things just are not safe for them to go back yet. So the myth versus the reality of TPS. The myth is TPS designations have expiration dates and automatically on. This one I hear a lot. TPS, what do you think the T stands for? Give me some more coon. Want to eat some raccoon? Put a possum on the spit. The reality, TPS has review dates, not expiration dates. So what happens is once the review date comes up, they have to review that checklist and make sure that all right, is it still not safe to return there? The goal is not to like lift TPS status. The goal is to be able to give people a chance to stay here safely until it is safe for them to return to their home. All right. And so, sorry about this. Got bad visibility already, and I got what bad visibility there is blocked. Okay. So at least 60 days before the period ends, Secretary must review country conditions. If it doesn't meet the conditions, then they extend it. If it does meet the conditions, then they terminate it. If the secretary misses the deadline, it's automatically extended 6 more months. So if they haven't actually gone through all the trouble of going through the checklist and really verifying that it's safe, then it gets extended another 6 months. They can't just skip the checklist and then say it's expired. They have to actually show that it is safe to return. That's the real important thing. You have to, it's not just, I declare you are safe, therefore you are safe. You actually have to prove it is safe. That's not a judge. That's not me. That's not liberal spin. That's not wokeism. That's the law, the way the actual law is written. And so if you're going to sit there and talk about the law and following the law, then actually understand what the law actually says. Okay. Let me see if we got some. Okay. If there was a spike, well, there was a spike in voter turnout in 2020 because it was easier to vote because of mail-in voting. I mean, it has nothing to do with it. I don't know what that's. Okay, I'm just zipping on down to see if there's that want people. They want people to follow the law. They tell them to, but follow by invalidating everything else. Yes, it's like only the laws that we say are important need to be followed. We make this up as we go along. Tell the rioters to let the they're not doing their lawful job though, and they're not rioters, by the way. Like, just you need to understand what words mean if you're going to try and use them. There aren't any riots. A protest is not a riot, and just calling a protest a riot doesn't make it a riot. And calling legal observing a riot doesn't make it a riot. It just makes you an ignorant fool spouting ignorant nonsense. So in your mind, these able-bodied men should be fleeing their countries instead of fighting. In my mind, what you just presented was a false dichotomy. Able-bodied men should be fleeing their countries. In my mind, people get killed regardless of what their gender is or their age. And people shouldn't have to die. Like, come on. What a stupid question. Are you a stupid person? Not you. You. Are you a stupid person? Not you. Where'd you go? The guy that asked the stupid question. Anyway. Sorry, dude. Sorry, Mouse. I wasn't meaning it. Keep there. This guy. No. In my mind, that's a stupid question. For pushing biblical law through the religious fundamentals. It's not like an either or. And the fact is that the people that are coming over here on TPS actually contribute a lot to the economy, and they are helping take care of us. And it's not even about, we're not talking about theoretically whether we should exist as a, whether TPS should exist. TPS does exist. There are laws about TPS in existence. What we're talking about is not whether or not TPS should exist. What we are talking about is whether or not the President of the United States and his administration should follow the laws and execute the laws that the Congress has passed. We're talking about whether or not we actually live in a constitutional republic with three separate but equal co-branches of government, where the executive branch is not an authority over the judicial branch and the legislative branch. That is what we are talking about. Your side will say this and complain about free school lunches. No, it's not a riot when you disagree with it and a protest when I agree with it. It's a riot when you start destroying other people's property. It's a riot when you start, I don't know, what else? When you start physically attacking people. It's not a riot when you're just blowing whistles. And no, illegal is not illegal. There are different kinds of infractions. A visa overstay is the equivalent of a parking ticket. That isn't a felony illegal. It's not even it's a civil offense. And here's the thing. A lot of people that are here on TPS came over here legally on visas legally, and they hadn't overstayed their visas. Like, you can be here on TPS and never even broken a civil law. Like, not even entered illegally or been here illegally. And in fact, we'll get into this in a bit, while it's possible to have entered illegally, and there are some people that have entered illegally that have received TPS status, it's much harder based on the way the law is written. MAGA don't care about the law. They want a white Christian nationalist nation, and they'll do whatever it takes. Yeah. And it's funny because, like, white Christian nationalist nation is like an oxymoron. There's no such thing as a white nation or a Christian nation, according to the Bible. I'm not talking about, obviously it's not true according to the Constitution. There's always people got to, jump in on the constitutional side. I know that. Don't correct me. I'm just saying also on the biblical side, the idea of a Christian nation on the biblical side is also unbiblical. It is unconstitutional and it is unbiblical. Two things can be true at the same time. People are going to have to die. Why? Because you want them to? You're good. Oh, I can only imagine how frustrating it is to do with this. There are days where I get frustrated, and then I have reasonable voices like yours encourage me to continue, or Kitty, or Brett, or I've been getting enough people that are sane and rational and decent in my comments that it's an encouragement enough to keep going. So did you not do the same thing? You said it not right, but sense that they're lethal and physical harm happening to enforcement and people other side. You're right. If not riots, if terrorists or cold. I have no idea what any of that means, but I did not say the same thing because I speak like rational English. I don't know none. All I know is they're not vandalizing anything. They're not destroying property. They're not attacking law enforcement. There's only been one ICE agent that's been injured in any of these incidents, and he more or less hurt himself. So, no, I don't think that means there's a bunch of riots going on. ICE is what you need to understand is when Christine OM talks about these assaults on ICE agents, factored into assault being up 3,000%. There's a few things that are going on. First of all, the deal with the percent is it can be really, really inflated if your denominator is really small. So like if you had 5 and then you had 25, you can say it went up 500%, but it's still only 25 assaults. Okay. There just weren't that many assaults. There's not that many assaults on ICE officers. It's actually a very small number. The number of people convicted of assaulting ICE officers in the year 2025 is 1. Right? So that's number 1. Number 2, they're talking about there's different numbers that get bandied about, and she conflates them all together. There's arrests, there's charges, and there's convictions. And she's bandying them all about. Okay, a lot of times what happens, over 80% of people that are arrested are never charged, and only a few of the people that are charged are ever convicted. Arrested, what happens is they just say, oh, you're assaulting an officer. And they take them off the streets, and then they beat the crap out of them, and they dump them off in a parking lot somewhere or something like that. Or they just take them into a detention center and hold them there for 3 days and then let them go without anything ever happening, other than having their civil rights violated. But they never, but that gets counted as an assault of an ICE officer. There was one woman, I kid you not, a woman that was assaulted an ICE officer by walking into his fist. And she was held in a detention center for 3 days. But she assaulted him by walking into his fist and getting knocked to the ground by his fist. All right. I don't think that's how assault works. She was never charged, but she was arrested. She's part of that up 3,000% that Christine OM likes to talk about. The other thing is they're also using things like recording ICE officers, blowing whistles, and they call these things as interfering with operations. But according to the law, and I know that you guys don't like actually talking about the laws and what the laws actually say when you talk about not breaking the laws, but the law actually says that it has to be forcefully impeding, and then forcibly through like court after court after court. There's been 7 different appeals courts decisions on this that all say forcible means it has to be physically preventing. All right. Blowing a whistle is not physically preventing anything. And before you like want to say, well, blowing a whistle is making a sound, and a sound is blowing physical waves and blah, blah, blah. Now, all that's been adjudicated. yelling and making noise is not physically impeding. It's not forcibly impeding. All right. And even in the same law that says that, it specifically says that that law should not be applied to take away people's First Amendment rights. So that's number two. They're taking a lot of things that aren't assault and they're calling it assault. So when you have a really small denominator and then you jack up the numerator, then you really make the you make the percentage look like it's gone up a lot more than it has. So that's why I bring you back to there was one person convicted of assaulting an ICE officer in 2025. So no, there are not a bunch of riots going on. That's a bunch of nonsense. Both of these are both of those are both if you don't agree. It's just the level of how much you're willing to get up in your feelings. And it's like January 6th wasn't a riot, right? January 6th wasn't a riot. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't an insurrection. But somehow blowing a whistle is all of those things. My grandmother has an undocumented citizen living and taking care, a person, I guess, living and taking care of her. If Trump stays in power, she'll lose her free in-home care. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of positive things that come out of undocumented migrants. Somehow we've made this like the most immoral thing that a human being can do is cross over an imaginary line illegally. But like there are many studies that show that the net impact of undocumented immigrants on the U.S. economy are extremely beneficial. Exactly. Thank you. So you admit that January 6th was a full-on attack from the right. It's a riot when you're the mayor saying that you're going to use the police force to fight ICE. Well, first of all, no, that's not a riot. And secondly, that never happened. You can say it's inciting a riot if he says that, and then there's actual evidence that actually happened. Like if you say, go down there and fight like hell, and you're not going to have a country anymore, and then you tell 2,000 people that, and they immediately do that, and then they wipe their crap all over the Capitol building and try to overthrow the government. See, that might be considered inciting a riot. If you incite a riot and a riot actually happens, yeah, then you can say that's inciting a riot. But the speech and the riot are still two different things. You can't incite a riot if there's no riot. That's why ICE is not a law enforcement, and it's not a law enforcement agency. I feel like sometimes I could just like play the exact same answers in random order and just like not even do a show. It'd just be, replay the same thing because it's like so many people say the same stupid thing every single day. The difference between a riot and a protest is the amount of damage done to the location. January 6th was a riot and an insurrection, for example. And there's also like one thing that I think is important is there's looting, rioting, and insurrection, or looting, rioting, and protesting. Insurrection is January 6th, and that was specifically an insurrection because it was an attempt to literally overthrow the United States government. But I want to talk about during the George Floyd protests, there was legitimate protests. Most of it was legitimate protests. I think only about 0.5% of people that were involved in the protests in any way were ever arrested. And the majority of the people that were arrested in conjunction with those protests were just arrested for violating curfews. Like very few were violent charges. There were some that were violent, and there were people in the that connected to the protests that were rioters. That does not mean everybody in the protests were rioters. And a lot of the people that were rioters were charged with doing things like rioting. And some of those were conservatives trying to instigate riots. They were the actual agitators. A lot of the agitators were right wing. The Boogaloo Boys were the ones who burned down the police building in Minneapolis. That doesn't mean that all the peaceful protesters across the country burned down buildings. It's a nice little conflation MAGAs like to make. Yes, it is my opinion. My opinion is based in fact. I mean, of course it's my opinion. I'm not going to be stating somebody else's opinion. Greenlanders are independent. They may want to be connected to Denmark the other way or not. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. One side blows whistles and calls them names. The other side stormed the Capitol building to stop the peaceful transfer of power. They are not the same. Thank you. MAGA should be asking why the FEMA camps have barbed wire on their fences facing inward. That's a fair question. I like to say the difference between ice and ice cream, or the difference between ice and Gestapo is like the difference between ice cream and gelato. Just a little bit different spelling. One starts with I, one starts with G. The government and its agencies is fascism for far-right lunatics. Okay, you can think that the cases from Cohen Barrett court for that are now allowed to consider similar conduct to determine whether protesters are dangerous because they're acting the same. Oh, I haven't looked into this one yet. It's a new type of bot. When you see it, makes no sense because it has nothing to do with any subject. Oh, it's just a long read to exhaust you. Ah, okay. So I should just ignore the long sort of run-on sentence ones. MAGA are clueless fools. 8 out of the 10 poorest states are red states. What was Adolf Trump doing? Done to help? Yeah, nothing. He's gotten them to be angry at brown people. What about taking away the Second Amendment from that guy who got shot? We don't hear the radical. Even the NRA, actually, I talked about this one last Thursday. Even the NRA criticized Trump for his reaction to that. But I do think it's funny that the gun grabbers came and what's her name? Judge Weinbach's Pirro, Jean Pirro, is that her name? She's the one that's like, if you bring your guns in DC, we'll take them. I think it's funny that, you know, like the gun grabbers ended up being the Republicans. No, there's not plenty of vids on Twitter of people actually interfering. You don't know what interfering means. That's the problem. What laws got you to go with it? But I don't think he's ignoring. He's just going through all the shit posts one at a time. I need to be better at. Patsy had to go take care of something, so she's not filtering my. All right, so taking a cue from Brett, because Brett's pretty keen on these things. None of this ICE stuff is actually about deportation or national security. It's about more federal ground presence and training for Rex 84. I haven't heard of Rex 84 before. But yeah, I don't think this is legitimately about, detaining people that are here illegally. I think it's more about securing power and more power and more power. Our side doesn't want to overthrow anything, dude. That's where your false equivalence falls apart. Protesting is not wanting to overthrow something. They literally tried to deny the election results from being counted. You were okay with that, and now somebody's blowing a whistle and you lose your marbles. Maybe the one with the double standard is you. All right, we're done with that guy for a while. It's always amazing to me that the same people who believe bullying is character building get so snowflake upset at being called names. Why don't you love me? Oh, thank you. Patsy sat down and did some filtering for me. All right, so let's go back to the slideshow, what you can see of it. I apologize for it being so weird this time. I don't know why it got all weird. Okay. So let's go back here. So the common misperception number 2, I see this. People confuse TPS and asylum, and they are different things. TPS is a countrywide designation. This is the most essential difference. Is TPS applies to the country, and asylum applies to the individual. For TPS, you have to be from the country. You have to be in the U.S. before the cutoff date. It has to be based on general conditions in the home country. It does not create a path to citizenship. And while it's temporary, it's renewable. So as long as that country is on the TPS list, you can stay here and work here legally. As long as you were here before it was granted TPS. Asylum, you come over here, you request asylum. You can request asylum the moment that you arrive, which is now how it happens most often. People cross over the border, they go straight to a designated building, and they request asylum. They're not like walking around the country. Like I don't know what people think of when they're like they think that people were here illegally for like years and then decided to request for asylum. I don't know what they think about that. I don't understand where their thought process is sometimes. But they go and they directly apply for asylum as they're crossing the country or as they're crossing the border. You must prove you personally face persecution. So TPS, it doesn't need to be personal, but asylum, it has to be personal. Like you're, in a country that doesn't allow gays, and you have to prove you're gay, and that if you get sent back, you are going to be killed for being gay, or that you're going back is going to get you killed for being a political opponent. There's specific criteria, and I've gone through those before. I won't go through it right now, but that is asylum, is it has to be targeted to you. For TPS, it doesn't have to be targeted to you. It can just be in general, like just Haiti's killing everybody. You can get citizenship through an asylum. You can't get citizenship through TPS. And once you get asylum, it's permanent. With TPS, it's never permanent. There, in case you're wondering, yes, you can request asylum if you're on TPS. You can do both at the same time. So the myth, once a country gets TPS, anyone from that country can come here and get protection. I was wrong about this, is what I was correcting myself about earlier. Once a country gets TPS, you can't get TPS. It's actually the opposite. TPS has a cutoff date. Only people already in the U.S. before that date are eligible. And that cutoff date is the date that it is granted. So let's say, on March 8th, 2021, Venezuela was granted TPS. So if you were here on March 7th, continuously, you could get, you were eligible for TPS, and it was automatic, unless you had like a criminal record. But you had to prove you were here before March, or on March 7th or before. If you got here at 12:05 a.m. on March 8th, you're not eligible for TPS. So this is, or arrived before, yeah. there's some confusion here over whether March 8th, but I clarified that, and it's the date of the cutoff. You're not eligible. It has to be, you have to be here before the cutoff date. Common misconception number 4. TPS versus CHNV parole. This is a thing that was under Biden. This might be what the one guy was talking about that didn't know what he was talking about with Joe Biden. Okay, so TPS is temporary protected status. That's what we've been talking about. CHNV patrol is another thing separately. And this was a deal where you could apply from your home country. So if you were in Cuba, you could apply for the CHNV parole. And it was like an app on your phone that you would fill it out and you could get approved. Then you would fly to the US. Once you had approval, you would pay for your own flight. Joe Biden carved this out, and then Trump ended it. There were 530,000 people that came over on this. And these are people that came over here legally. They applied beforehand. They did not come here legally. They came under the Biden administration. The Biden administration was a legal administration, and it's what it did legally counts. You don't get to just say he lost, therefore it doesn't count. You don't get to declare he had dementia or auto pens or whatever kind of nonsense you want to ramble on incoherently about. It was a 100% legal program carved out by a legitimate, honestly elected president of the United States. And, you know, all the people that want to sit there and talk about Trump won, deal with it, still never dealt with Biden winning. Anyway, so Trump won, and he terminated this program. This, whether or not he can, is still up in the air. We'll get more into that later. But CHNV parole, NV parole, sometimes gets lumped in with TPS. These are separate programs. There are people that are from Haiti, for instance, and Cuba, and all of these countries that there was TPS, but they also had the CHNV parole. If you weren't here, though, before TPS was allotted to Venezuela, it's still not safe there. And so you could come over on this CHNV program. And if you came over here on CHNV, then this was worked with asylum. So you were like basically requesting asylum. Okay, so once you'd still have to go through the rest of the asylum process. So as of March of 2025, there were about 1.3 million people here that were TPS holders. About 600,000 of them were from Venezuela, 330,000 from Haiti, and about 174,000 from El Salvador. Those were the largest countries. And they were mostly in New York, Florida, and Texas. They added $36 billion to the GDP for those that are like, take care of our own first. And they work mainly in construction, hospitality, healthcare, and cleaning. So these are not just people that are coming over here and living off of whatever you want to say. They're not living off of tax dollars. They're working for a living. And when they're working for a living, they're also contributing to the economy. They're helping their employers by doing jobs. These are a positive asset to the economy. They are not, you know, like if you want to take care of our own, then helping take care of them is a big part of that. We need to stop looking at it as though anything that is good for a foreign person is bad for an American person. Both things can be true at the same time. Okay. I am periodically cleaning up chat of garbage like Miss. Thank you for that, Kitty. Kitty is like such a hero. So I like you, Mouse. When I was in the Air Force, I don't know if you were ever in the Air Force. We used to call the there was a guy we called the house mouse when I was in basic training, kind of like the administrative guy that helped the drill sergeant out with some of the administrative stuff. We'd call them the house mouse. So that's what I think of when I see mouse houses. Oh my God, you'll appreciate this. There is a bridge that is reopening after almost 10 years because they kept deporting the illegals in a town I go to a lot, and they couldn't find anyone else to do it. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I mean, that town in Haiti, or that town in Ohio with the, the cats and dogs eating. Hey Kitty, can you check your private chat there? The town in Ohio, the factory that all those people worked out was about to go out of business, and the town was like about to just collapse completely. And basically the Haitians saved the town from financial collapse. He's probably saying stuff he doesn't think you can see as a kid, like threats and slurs. Hey, Brian. Mods can see even the stuff you delete. You get blocked. You got blocked because you don't contribute to the stream. I'm from an Air Force family that became a cop family. Ha ha ha. Yeah. I want to talk about a silly vanilla, aka Kid Rock link seeker. Let that sink in. I want that joke to catch on, but it probably never will. Another military brat. I'm both a military brat and a military veteran. So Kitty is gonna man the fort for me for a couple of minutes because I need to go handle something. And oh, whoops, hang on. All right. Here we go. All right. So Kitty's going to handle the chat for a minute. I'll be back. Thank you, Kitty.
Okay, that's no problem. So Brian just mentioned here, Brian, I can only block who you don't want a fair discussion with. Well, guess what? If you wanted, we have boundaries here, and I understand you don't understand them because MAGA doesn't understand boundaries. But let me be clear. We in this chat room and on this channel are not a democracy. We are in fact a dictatorship. So I get to choose to have whoever I want in here and delete anything I want. So absolutely. So I just want to say, and there are things that we don't tolerate. A good sound sentient argument is great. In fact, even Skippy and I don't always agree on things, but for the most part, Skippy gets most of their stuff staying in there. I don't appreciate when people are ugly to one another and call each other names. So I'll just give you the ground rules real quick. Sorry, I have ADHD. First and foremost, we're not going to tolerate racism, Nazism, transphobia, homophobia, or calling any of the people here either in the chat, okay, or who are speaking derogatory, ugly terms. And Kelly is particularly sensitive to the R word for lots of personal reasons. But that one is particularly triggering for him, even though it's not considered profanity. So there are things we won't tolerate. I also don't like having misinformation when we have facts and science available to be in the chat for legacy folks who are watching and reading through some of these. So that's one of the things that's kind of important to me. So I'm probably going to try and peruse through as I can. This is not my strong suit. So just so you know, Brian, those are the rules. If you don't like it, you can just go, let the door hit you in the butt on the way out. We appreciate it. All right. Mouse houses. It's the same reason that the small businesses are the backbone of our economy, because often make less than minimum wage for several years before they can make a profit. Oh, absolutely. Having been a serial entrepreneur myself, you're absolutely right. We don't ever plan as small business owners. You have to plan for 5 years of covering not only your house and personal expenses, but also all of your business expenses before even considering what you call a profit. So yeah, that's a whole thing. Oh, I see Bitter Biscuit is breaking the rules already. So by the way, the lib R word is the same thing as the R word in this house. So it gets you gone. My favorite part was when Charlie Kirk hologram started twerking God Bless America. Oh my God, that is so great. Oh my. Okay, that's hilarious, Loch Ness Monster. That is hilarious. Now, did anybody see Erica Kirk on that halftime show? Like, I didn't watch it, but I've seen clips of her. Her husband died 5 months ago, and she looked like she was on the runway of like her coming out debutante ball. It was very, very creepy. Oh, apparently. Oh, so RK69RK. Ooh. That really just sounds like you're sucking yourself, or it's some sort of funky masturbation thing. I'm going to move on from you. That was gross. Don't want to yuck your yum. That was rude of me. I'm sorry. Kid Rock second. Oh no, that's misinformation. That is hired bot material. We're just going to ban that user because
Wait a
that
second.
is.
Wait, sorry. I came in just now,
Oh, I'm
and I
sorry.
just want to. What are you a therapist in again?
Sex therapy.
You're a sex therapist that just got grossed out by a sex comment.
Well,
I don't know what that happened.
hold on. It was
I don't know what it said, but that is hilarious.
Well, it was sort of this weird, like, 69ing yourself thing. And the visual just became really too much for me at that point. Not that I'm anti-69. I love my 69s. Anybody who follows me knows that I'm a giant cougar. So
yeah, I mean, like to get you to react is like it's got to be a special
it's
kind
a
of gross.
Nazi and that kind of thing. So okay, so the blue hair optional. So that is an example of a delete. Comment I delete because that's inappropriate. And no, he didn't get the second highest ratings. Kid Rock got less than 6 million viewers. Honestly, I've had videos with more viewership than Kid Rock got last night in the TP show, and I'm not even an influencer. Brian, I am MAGA, and I don't even like MAGA not. Okay, good. Power to you. Go enjoy your yum. You go, girl. Stand farm on your chat. That's right. Oh, I was explaining, Kelly. I wasn't sure if you were around, but I was explaining in the chat how this is not a democracy in here. This is a dictatorship, and we have boundaries, and we don't allow things in our chat that we don't want in our chat. Period. So I like to clear out the misinformation. I like to clear out the ugly comments, and we don't tolerate the ugly comments.
Yeah, this is not your Trump administration.
No,
you are not my Kaylee, or what was that? Who's the current Barbie? Is it Kaylee, or?
Oh, you mean the propaganda? The propaganda
Barbie.
I called her the bitch of Buchenwald.
Anyway,
Anyway,
you're not my her. You are the one who you're just like my trash man.
Yeah, well, kind of like I'm like your Luther and your trash man because I'm meaner than you are.
Yeah.
You're very sweet. So for context, Brian was getting butthurt at you at you for insulting his no shoes. Oh, that was funny, Dusty. By the way, high five, baby. High five. I guess I'm going to hand this over and get back into why would anyone be nervous by kid work? I'm going to let you go back and hit these. I'll go start cleaning out.
Thank you for that.
Anytime.
I'm gonna get back into the TPS thing. So, just gonna. So let me. Get back to this. What is a hypocrite? You try and block those who no people that make reasonable like this, like what is this the one that you were talking about? It's funny that he says this and has not been banned or blocked, and his comments is being put up there and he's being responded to, but somehow he feels like he's being censored. Like here's the issue, and this is maybe I wasn't here because she was taking over from me for a minute, but I want to clarify that there is a difference between censorship and just not platforming ridiculousness. All right. I'm all for reasonable opposition, reasonable debate, fact-based disagreement. But nonsense, there's plenty of channels you can go and disseminate your nonsense and your weird things. This is just a nonsensical free zone. That's all.
Go back to 4chan, bitches.
Exactly.
Or X. Go to X.
A hypocrite is someone who complains about authoritarian policies in the public sector while also complaining that people don't want that for their government. Okay, so let me get back to this. All right, so wow. So these are the Trump administration's terminations. Tell me which of these countries you feel like you would be safe going to. Venezuela, Afghanistan, Cameroon, Nepal, Haiti, Honduras, Nicaragua, Syria, South Sudan, Myanmar/Burma, Ethiopia, Somalia. So like you would feel free to go to any of those countries and not feel like it's safe? See, the thing is that while he's calling all of these countries, while he's saying that TPS doesn't apply anymore, all of these countries also have travel advisories against them. These are all dangerous places to go to, but they're not too dangerous to return people to. So you can't, like, this is part of the whole thing. This is why I want to say, and I'm trying to make a point here, that the problem, where the whole point of TPS is safety, is humanity, is human decency. It's that there are places that are too dangerous, so people leave. And they leave because they're dangerous. We should not be sending people to their deaths. So a lot of these keep getting blocked. And then you get people like Christy Noem sitting there saying that it's just liberal activist judges or whatever, even though some of them are even Trump appointed judges, because they're actually not following the law. The law, again, I don't know how else I can put this. You can't defend the law and then ignore the law. The courts have found that they have preordained decision to end TPS. Like, you can't make a determination to end TPS before you even review the details of whether it's safe to send people back there. The whole point of TPS, the whole way the law is written, is You have to determine it's safe to send people back there before you make the determination. They influence the conditions in the review process. They've had arbitrary and capricious decision making. They failed to comply with the Administrative Procedure Act, and they ignored State Department assessments. I'm just going to read this from the speaker's notes here. Multiple federal judges have found the same pattern. Secretary Noem decided to end TPS first, then worked backward to justify the decision rather than genuinely reviewing the country conditions. Judge Tina Thompson wrote that Noem made preordained decisions to end TPS and influence the conditions review process to facilitate TPS terminations. This violates the Administrative Procedure Act, which requires agencies to follow statutory procedures and base decisions on evidence. And this is where I think it's really something that even no matter how MAGA you are, you sit there and you make a big thing about how we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic. But you can't sit there and advocate that we're a constitutional republic and ignore the constitutional part. The Constitution says that we are a country that has 3 branches of government that are separate and co-equal. The president is not above the Congress. The president is not above the judicial branch. You have 3 separate co-equal branches of government, and you have a separation of powers, and you have checks and balances between those 3 things so that no one person can become too powerful. The Congress, the legislative branch, makes the laws. The executive branch enforces the laws, and the judicial branch reviews the laws. That's the way that it's supposed to happen. Okay? So there is a law for the TPS status. That law, there is a law about what constitutes TPS, the Administrative Procedure Act. That is an actual law passed by actual Congress, and that is the actual law by which TPS is governed. The executive branch, the president, under the president, the Secretary of State, Kristi Noem, is supposed to be enforcing this law, but she is not enforcing that law. According to the way that Congress wrote that law. And we know that because the judicial branch is saying that she's not doing it. This is the way our constitutional government is supposed to work. Kristi Noem can't just say that it doesn't matter what the judicial branch says. She can't just say liberal activist judges and make it go away. That's the way our Constitution works. You can't talk about how much you love America and then only love Trump. That's not loving America. That's choosing Trump over America. You can't sit there and say you're a constitutional republic and ignore the constitutional part. There is a law that is written about TPS, and Donald Trump and his administration are ignoring that law. And we know this because we know what the law says, and they're not fitting that law. And it's not just us saying they're not following that law. It's the judges that are saying they're not following that law. I don't know how much more clear I can get than that. Going to skip through the comments and see if anybody's commenting on what we're talking about. Just like the Bible, they pick and choose what parts. They don't seem to, the only part of the Constitution they seem to even acknowledge is half the Second Amendment. Please, Americans, you need to stop sending your money to Israel. We're not talking about Israel. Keep on doing cool, Kelly and Kitty. Hey, Kelly and Kitty, that's kind of got it cool. I don't want to throw another K in there. I always pop in here to make a silly joke and dip. Hopefully, y'all never mind silly trouble. Nah, silly trouble is the best kind of trouble. There's good trouble, and then there's silly trouble. The big reason that deportation was written into administrative law was to lower the burden of proof. They don't need reasonable doubt. Yeah, and there's I might have to do a show sometime just on the history of immigration law. I think that so many people do not understand anything at all about how our immigration laws came to be, what they are, that they're racist from the beginning. Like we didn't have immigration laws at first until we started getting too many Chinese people. The whole reason we started having immigration laws is we started getting too many Chinese people. Did you know that? And then it became about just keeping all, inferior people out. Even still, so many of our immigration laws are based on the number of people that have previously come over from countries, so that it still favors white people. All right, so let's go back to here. So the judges, back to where we were, judges are blocking determinations because determinations are illegal. Not because the judges are activist judges, because Christine O.M. is not following the law. You can't break the law to enforce the law. If you're breaking the law to enforce the law, there is no law. So the legal standard, according to the Administrative Procedure Act, follows statutory procedures, actually review the country conditions, consult with the State Department, base decisions on evidence in the record, provide reasonable explanations, cannot act arbitrarily and capriciously like they are doing. What courts found OM did, made procedures, predetermined decisions, cherry-picked or ignored evidence, skipped genuine Department of State consultation, and contradicted states' own travel advisories. The Administrative Procedure Act governs how federal agencies must operate. Agencies can't just do whatever they want. They must follow their own procedures and base decisions on evidence. When an agency decides the outcome first and works backward to justify it, that's textbook arbitrary and capricious actions. The courts aren't second-guessing policy. They're enforcing basic administrative laws. I hope I'm making this clear. I hope that even the MAGAs among you can understand what I am saying here. That there is a law written to determine how and when to lift TPS. This is not even about whether this country should or should not have TPS right now. This is about whether or not Christine O.M. is following the law when these TPS status is being lifted, and they're not. And they're not saying that because the Democrats said so. They're not saying that because the CNN said so. This is the judges saying so. Constitutionally appointed judges. I wasn't in a Big Mac mood. I understood what you said, but I'm tired of people who are so ignorant and don't understand what is at stake here. Trump isn't our answer. He is our destroyer. I don't know what a Big Mac mood is, but you're right about Trump. I still feel weird about not taking admin law in grad school. The year I was during the Obama administration, and they were really trying to get people to take it. I think they knew even then. What were you in grad school for? Are you like a lawyer, like an actual lawyer? The same people who would argue there's nothing arbitrary about illegal don't think there's anything solid about why you need a license to drive. Yeah, trying to find consistency in a MAGA can be a very difficult situation. The same people who argue that there's nothing capricious about protecting the citizens would argue that forcing us to have car insurance is hurting the populace. Oh. Well, guess somebody had enough of Brian. Let's go. I have. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I hope I'm not coming across as a complete idiot. I do not have my JD. I did take constitutional law as a freshman. So. Meow. Kitty got claws. So anyway, yeah. I mean, it's like you don't have to be a lawyer to actually like read the actual law and understand the words that are written in it. And so a lot of these things that the MAGAs argue about, I feel like I'm glad when I have actual lawyers agree with what I'm saying, because it makes me feel like I'm not a complete idiot for saying it. But yeah. I think that the law is pretty plain in itself, and judges that actually do know what they're talking about are saying, yeah, this is not true. You're shockingly spot on. You've clearly done your research. Oh, shucks. I'm not blushing. You're blushing. Okay. But I do try to research. Okay. So now, so the legal standard. Okay. So we just went through that one. We're never going to make it through this whole thing today. This one's 34 slides long and we're only on 16. So the evidence problem, Haiti. So here's an example. Christine O.M. said that right now, there's nothing wrong with sending people back to Haiti. So she says environmental conditions have improved enough that it's safe for Haitian citizens to return home. The actual evidence, the State Department has a level 4 do not travel warning. I forget how many. Okay. What is the highest? The highest travel warning is level 4. Okay, that's what I thought. I wanted to make sure. So the strongest travel warning there is being invoked by the State Department, and you've got the Secretary Noam saying, it's fine. It's fine. Gangs control 85% of Port-au-Prince. There's been 5,601 people were killed in 2024 gang violence, and 1,607 in 2024, and then 1,617 killed just in the first quarter of 2025. This is still a little older. And then one of the worst things is they had 4 women in Puerto Rico that were deported. They were here on TPS, and then they called the TPS off. They ended TPS. 4 women that were deported had their heads chopped off in Haiti. So I think they'd argue that they had a legitimate claim that it was dangerous to go back if they still had their heads attached to their bodies. 10 of the 13 countries that he has declared these TPS warnings or that they've listed TPS for have travel warnings travel warnings, and of those, 6 of them are level 4 travel warnings. Haiti, Syria, Venezuela, Somalia, South Sudan, and Burma. Do you want to go to Syria right now? Would you go to Syria? How about Somalia? How about South Sudan? You think you're safe going there? So on the one hand, we're saying it's not safe enough to travel to, but we're also saying it's safe enough to live there. And here's the problem. Is the Supreme Court has been doing these can't remember what it's called. Maybe Mouse can help me if I but they're doing these kind of rule can't, like, closet docket or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. But where they make these decisions, but they don't explain themselves, and they take these they take emergency hearings, and then they make a decision where they don't have to explain themselves, and then they don't explain themselves. And so what they've done is they've done this sort of thing where they're allowed the status to go through until they hear it, or they allow the decision to end the status to go through until they hear it. Now, of course, the problem with that is that once, like those 4 women that had their heads chopped off, they're not going to be able to come back here. Like, once people get sent back and killed, it's too late for them. And one of the things that's supposed to be part of this whole thing is what is irreversible? Is it irreversible to end if they stay the TPS status ending, there's no real damage that happens to anybody. There's no rush to send everybody out to go back and get murdered in their own countries. But once they get murdered, they can't come back. So the Supreme Court has twice allowed Venezuelan terminations to proceed under emergency orders. They did not address the merits, only lifted injunctions. Signals court may defer to executive on immigration, which is not really how it's supposed to be done. They're supposed to be deciding what the law says. Like the way the law is written, it's not, this court has got some really fuzzy stuff going on. Multiple court districts have found terminations violate the APA and statutory requirements, but the Supreme Court has issued emergency stay, allowing deportations to proceed while appeals continue. The court hasn't ruled on the merits, whether the terminations are actually lawful, but these emergency orders signal the conservative majority may ultimately side with executive discretion over administrative law requirements. This creates a situation where terminations are procedurally unlawful, but may be allowed to continue anyway. So, and then by doing this, like little closet docket thing where they don't explain themselves, they're basically saying Trump can break the law as long as he wants. And they're just not going to rule on it until some mysterious time, after which, people are already dead. But the lower courts, where they've actually reviewed the laws, they said this is not what the law says. This is wrong. So you've got the Supreme Court basically overruling the rest of the judicial branch to give this blanket authoritarian, unconstitutional merit, or not unconstitutional power to the executive branch. And one thing I really want to talk about at some point is how we've gotten further and further into executive power, and this has been going back since FDR. It's not just Trump, but Trump has definitely accelerated things. So what happens when TPS ends? The immediate effects: loss of work authorization, they're subject to deportation, and they cannot legally remain in the United States. Some people have been here decades, many have US citizen children. So like if they're here legally under TPS and they have children, their children are born here illegally, then they can't see their kids anymore. They own homes and businesses. So you take the business owner out, you take the business out, you're costing people their jobs. No other legal status available. They're returning to countries they left as children. A lot of them have no idea what it's like to live there, what to do there. May not have any recollections. If you came over here from Haiti when you were 5, or like El Salvador, some of these countries, remember they went back to 1998. So that would make that 27 years ago. So you could have people that came over here when they're 5, now they're in their 30s. Have no idea what it's like there. And now they have to go back. So the economic impact, it's going to cause labor shortages in key industries. That one town that the Haitians saved, the factory, saved the entire town. Well, once you ship everybody out, what's going to happen? That town is going to go back into recession. $36 billion removed from the economy, disruption to employers and communities. One thing I don't think MAGA thinks enough about is that undocumented workers actually do work, and that work they do contributes to the economy. And they don't seem to have the wherewithal to like actually consider that. They just read stupid things about, how they're like these Schrodinger's immigrants who both steal all our jobs and send all the money back home and still somehow live off the government and whatever. Constitution was written by men who were educated the same degree most middle schools were in the 1980s. Yeah. I've mentioned this before, but when I lived in Liberia, I was in high school, worked in a high school paper, and this was in 1983. And there was a guy there. He was the political advisor. His name was Marshall McCauley, and he was helping Liberia to write its new constitution. And so I was interviewing him, and he asked me, if you were to write the U.S. Constitution from scratch, would you write it exactly the same? And that was like over 40 years ago. He asked me that question, and I still think about that question to this day. If I were to write a constitution, what would I do? I think I think maybe we put too much stock into whether or not the Constitution was the perfect document. We pretend it is the perfect document, rather. We talk about how wise they were to make it flexible, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of stuff that maybe it's not flexible enough. I just think people should think more about things. And one of those things is a lot of these people, like, they weren't that well educated. A lot of them were just deeply, deeply racist people. They were deeply, deeply misogynistic people. They were deeply, deeply classist people. These were not the most well-rounded moral fiber. They didn't have the greatest moral fiber. They were deeply flawed people. Half the island has no trees because it's been harvested post-Katrina, when the country had the split, but okay, environment was better. So I think you're meaning Puerto Rico, right? We are about to be the place that other countries puts on. Yes. I'm really curious as to how the Olympics are going to work out, especially if he sends ice to the Olympics. It is going to be terrible. Do you think people are going to be coming here for the Olympics if they have to worry about getting shot by ice? There was like, to put things in perspective, there was so right now in Australia, there is a guy, like the president of Israel is going there. And so there's a lot of protests going on in Australia against the president of Israel going to Australia because of resistance to what's going on in Gaza. And so there was a video of some Australian police officers beating the crap out of protesters. And one of the Australian comments on that was, wow, this is like ICE in the United States. And so we've gone from the country that we said, you know, sets the example, where the lantern on the hill, according to George Bush, like, we've gone from that, at least in our minds. I don't know if we ever were in their minds. I think we probably think more of ourselves than other countries ever did. But now we are the country that represents authoritarian police abuse. People see authoritarian police abuse and they're like, yeah, that's like the United States is now. And I think that should concern us as Americans, that this is what we are to other countries now. The solution to what, though? I'm not quite sure, you know, like, what you're referring to. If you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. The solution to what? I think sometimes that MAGA wants solutions to things that aren't problems, and they're just making problems that need solutions. SNL should do a No-M travel agency. Come visit Haiti. Come. That would be funny. Yes. Oh, there could be like, get ahead, or I don't know. Come meet a Haitian gang member, or who plays games like that. Like, who can get dysentery last? Yes, dysentery last. This is okay. Anybody else do this? Like, a lot of words I learned reading. And then I would like learn them again through speaking, and dysentery is one of those things. So like, when I was reading it, when I first started reading it, I always read it dysentery. And I still unconsciously do that instead of dysentery. Then I was like, thought it was two different words until one day I figured it out. You know, like when I was like 7 or whatever. I was reading like adult books when I was 7. Look up everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. Oh, is Longbong? Is Longbong in here? Did I miss Longbong? Oh. No. Anyway, Longbong's good peeps there, Mouse. The same people who are anti-socialism didn't go to history class to learn how SSI and food stamps started. They did not. Yeah, that's not anything at all. That has zero understanding of anything that we have ever talked about on this program. If they ever take the economy, it will boost enrollment, boost military enrollment. The same people who are anti-socialist are pro-required military service for healthcare and a paycheck. Well, as long as you're an adequate sycophant. They want to take away Mark Kelly's pension. Ireland copied our Constitution in 1921 and saw the problems we were having and added population-based measures to bypass political cronies to ensure people always win. That's interesting. I'm going to have to read about that. your house comparison is not genuine. It's more like if you own 100 plus acres and one person came and camped out, squatted for 30 years. And while they were camping out and squatting for 30 years, they developed that farmland and then sold food and then gave you a portion of what they made off of that food. And you actually profited off of them leaving there, and it's farmland that you wouldn't have been using otherwise. I don't know if you mean this, like if this was why. I always, that song Signs. I always think of every time I see your name, I think of that. Long-haired hippie people need not apply. So I tucked my hair up under my hat and I went in to ask him why. Sign, everywhere sign. Blocking out this. Anyway, I like that song. Don't know if that's where you get your name from, but the same people who want the world to thank them for not speaking German wants the same regime in this country for the same reason. Yeah, like that January 6th national anthem was like weirdly English and German at the same time. Dude, most of America, like squatters built this country. Immigrants being different ideas, different gods, different culture. Different from who? There is no adverse citizenship because there is no property right in its citizenship. All right, so, okay. So let's go back to this, see when we're going. What happens when TPS? Okay, so we already read that one. Can you get a green card if you have TPS? I think this is a good question. The short answer, not really. Although if you're here on TPS and you are here legally, if you entered legally and you get married to a U.S. citizen, you might be able to get one. All of these are if you enter legally. Employee sponsorship. So you can be here legally. You entered, like you came over here on a visa, then and you were still here legally, and then TPS passed, and so then you can stay here, and then you get a job, and so then your job sponsors you, and TPS ends, you can stay in certain situations. If you have a sponsorship, then you can maybe get a green card and end up staying here permanently. A lot of people, probably the most common ways is you can be here on TPS and still continue your asylum process and be granted asylum eventually. In which case, if you are granted asylum, then you can get, you're an asylee and you can get a green card and you can eventually naturalize. And then sometimes there's special legislation. But the catch is if you entered illegally, and many TPS holders did, you cannot adjust status without leaving the U.S., which triggers bars to reentry. So this is one thing that the one lie that you hear people on the right say, and I mean by people on the right, I mean legislators and people that know better. If you entered illegally, they say, well, you can just leave and come back and do it the right way, except that you can't. You can't come back. There's no like line to wait in. There's no place to get where you can wait in line or something like that. So you're here under TPS. So if you leave, like you have to go and like die. Like, I mean, it's just, again, sometimes it's the humanity that we have to think about. Does being born in Haiti mean you have to die in Haiti? So the asylum alternative, yes. Can TPS holders apply for asylum? Yes, but it's much harder. than TPS. You have to personally face persecution. So, it's based on race. So these are the factors based on race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or particular social group. As I mentioned before, particular social group is a little bit of a difficult thing to say exactly what that means, because it's always been up to the president to decide what that means. Up until like under Bush or under Clinton, it started to mean not being a member of a cartel. Like if you didn't want to join a cartel and they were threatening to kill you, you could seek asylum based on not wanting to get killed by cartels. Every president since then, other than Trump, has recognized not being a member of a cartel as being a member of a social group, which ironically, considering how much Trump is always saying how dangerous it is and how terrible the cartels are, then it's like the only people that are not allowed to flee the only people not allowed to flee cartels are the people that the cartels are killing. TPS, the difference is it's not just like if your country is just dangerous, you get TPS. If it's just declared that your country is too dangerous, then you have TPS. And so, but then that's temporary and not permanent. Asylum is permanent, not temporary, but you have to prove that you personally are in danger. So like with TPS, just general violence and crime qualify you for TPS, provided that it's declared a country with TPS. Same thing with economic collapse. Like sometimes what happens is you'll have a natural disaster that wipes out a nation's economy, and it's just not rebuilt after 10 or 20 years. It's still just like these things don't always happen like a 3 to 6 month cycle. They didn't have running water or electricity in Liberia for like 10 years. So that it just was not safe to go there for over a decade. So then this is for Haitian women I was talking about. For Haitian women found decapitated near Haiti. They had been deported from Puerto Rico 2 to 3 months earlier. They were missing for two weeks before their bodies were found. Community leaders, gangs kidnapped deportees to demand ransom from the U.S. relatives. This is also another thing that I think is they're not just being sent back where they can be, where they're in danger. They're targeted once they're sent back because they have relatives and family in the U.S., which means that they have money, which makes them more in danger than just the typical person. More in danger of being persecuted. So there's some others that pre-Trump, there was, but these are a little bit different. These are people that were deported that had TPS that were found to have criminal records when they received TPS. And having a criminal record when you receive TPS is qualifications for losing your TPS. So that Wildred Guerrier and Rudy Fogg were both had criminal records and were deported, one under Obama, one under Biden. Then they died in prison. Both of them, I think, died of cholera. Yeah. The UN position on return. So is it just what, who determines? Is it, it's there's the determination in the US, right? But there's also the fact that these determinations we're not the only country in the world, right? The UN is also looking at these other countries and determining whether or not they're safe, independent of what we're saying. So the Human Rights Commission for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights in January 2025 said the acute insecurity and resulting human rights crisis in the country, this is on Haiti, simply do not allow for the safe and dignified and simultaneous return of Haitians, sustainable return of Haitians, and yet deportations are continuing. I reiterate my call to all states not to forcibly return anyone to Haiti. UN's data on insecurity. 5,601 killed in gang violence in 2024, 1,617 killed in the first quarter of 2025, 161 kidnappings for ransom, quarter 1, 2025. So if you think Haiti's fine, if you think Haiti, that it's okay to send Haitians back to Haiti, go there for vacation. See how that turns out for you. I don't think it's going to turn out well. That's why there's a level 4 travel advisory there. Those countries cannot develop when they're already where they're at already. Help fix those problems. And I think this is another thing that I've covered previously on this podcast. I might have to come back to that at some point. But this is not independent of the United States either. A lot of those countries are failing because of the United States. The United States has interfered in politics across all of Latin America and South America and Central America. We are in constant interloper, and it's worse now under Trump. Since 1906, there have been 46 regime changes that are directly connected to the United States. Like we have forced regime change 46 times in 125 years. So when we're like every 2 or 3 years forcing regime change somewhere in South America, then we can't complain about, they're being unstable there. We're the ones that are making it unstable. And we've already done it once under Bush or under Trump. They talk about sovereign rights and leaving countries to do what they want while also drumming up the specter of Islamic jihad and communism outside of the U.S. coming after us. And a lot of times it's nothing. Yeah. Sorry, getting the hiccups. A lot of times we say it's communism. Like, look at what happened in Guatemala with the United Fruit Company, where it wasn't so much about communism. It was about the Dulles brothers, ye of Dulles Airport fame, wanting to protect their investment in the United Fruit Company. Oh, and by the way, one of them happened to be in charge of the CIA, and the CIA sponsored a coup. I don't understand how the same people who believe that communism will destroy the U.S. also believes they're one of the greatest threats to us. Do you believe in charity or helping those less fortunate than yourself at all? I think we need to just look at human decency. Like, just sometimes, can't we just look at what's human? Like, forget about, I mean, on the one hand, I don't want to say forget about what the law says, because I don't want to feel like I'm saying that we're not right on the law. I'm right. Like, this is the right part of the law. This is why the laws for TPS exist. But in addition to that, can we also look at it from just the pure human side? What is the morally right thing to do? Is the morally right thing to do to allow Haitians to continue to work and live here and raise their children who have done nothing wrong? Or is the right thing to do to send them back to Haiti so that they can get their heads chopped off? Like, what is the moral thing to do? What is the right thing to do? What is the humane thing to do? Why is it that this whole thing about legal status has to become your status as a human being is conditional upon your legal status as a human being living inside the United States of America? What is giving and giving for years? And now you take it. What does that mean, Tono? Can you really slow down for a minute and have an honest conversation? First of all, who's giving what? What are you giving and giving for years? What are you actually giving? Like, honestly, what are you giving? Can you answer that question? And then secondly, and now you take advantage of me. How are they taking advantage of you? In what way are they taking advantage of you? This is what I call empty rhetoric. It's just saying things without saying anything. You're not giving and giving them anything. They came over here some number of years ago for TPS, on TPS. TPS still exists. The country is still not safe to live in. They have lived and worked here the same as any other person living and working here. They're contributing to the society the same as anybody else. They're not getting anything. What are you giving? And what are they taking? Substantially, substantively. As I pointed out, they contribute $36 billion a year in our GDP. USAID has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Oh, no, sorry. That's something else. They are decent. The ones who practice, so people that have different religions are taking something from you by not having your religion? What does that mean? No, I don't agree. I know people who are Hindu who are compassionate. I know people who are Islamic who are compassionate. This is just, I don't know. I mean, this is ignorance. I don't even want to, it's just ignorance. You're just saying things you don't understand and aren't willing to learn about. America giving and no, they're not, though. No, you're not living it right now. You're not. You're like an ingrown toenail. You should change your name to ingrown toenail. Giving and giving and giving, like their parents didn't raise them for years and their employers didn't raise them, and then their friends didn't raise them. Like they don't do jobs where they actually contribute to the economy. $36 billion a year to the GDP. No, you don't. You don't deal with anything daily. You don't. You just yell emptiness into the air. You're like the Papa Simpson crowd guy yelling at the clouds. All right, so let's go back. Toenail. Okay. So we don't really need to. Okay, so let's talk about the litigation landscape about TPS. So these cases, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, and Syria, all of those TPS, they tried to end it, and they've been blocked or restored by court order. Haiti was blocked by court order, and then the Supreme Court reviewed it and gave them. It's still up in the air, but right now, the freeze was paused indefinitely, so they can deport people back to Haiti, where it's not at all safe. And right now, there's mixed rulings with Venezuela, Myanmar, and South Sudan. And of course, the DHS vehemently disagrees with court orders, continuing to appeal. But everything from this administration is a lie. What temporary actually means, the common understanding is that there's an expiration date and that it will definitely end. And it's really reviewed periodically based on conditions. The temporary is supposed to end once the status that caused, once the factors that caused the status to be applied are gone. Once it is safe to return there, that's when temporary ends. Rather, the way they're doing it now is just saying temporary ends because DHS said so. The conditions are still dangerous and people are being returned. That is not in the spirit of the law. That's not what the law meant. That's not what the law says. So, 23 years, El Salvador has had TPS. That does not mean that things are better in El Salvador all of a sudden just because Christine Oam said so. Honduras, 27 years. We're still granting people asylum from Honduras because it's not safe. Nicaragua, 27 years. And Sudan for 28 years. And at least 3 of these countries, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua, a big part of the reason, I would say even the major reason that the governments are unstable and unsafe is because of the United States causing that instability for more than 25, 30 years. The country, our country has been meddling in these countries for 50 years, 75 years. All right. Do we have any reasonably intelligent comments? Okay, Mouse is busy. They buy these goods and services, they contribute very little. That means that at least temporarily 300,000 bills did not get paid. Oh, so much for toenail. Kitty just clipped the toenails. All right. No more ingrown toenail. She popped on and gave me the claws. And the people they displaced were not able to participate in the job market, so their bills continue to be unpaid. And that's right. It's like the people, like when you say these Haitians that are working at this factory and they're getting deported now, right? Well, those jobs aren't going to be done in the factory. That means that the people that are working in the factory that aren't Haitians and the factory goes under, those people are going to lose their jobs too. And that means that other people like the hardware store and the grocery store and the people that, just have normal commerce are all losing all their paying customers, which means those businesses are going under. It's all connected. And these aren't government handouts that these people are, they're getting paychecks. They're earning their own money and they're paying taxes, which means federal revenue is also suffering. Which is why the market is still losing jobs, and the season that gets most places in the black were barely able to hold the line on not showing market contraction again. Yeah. I think if you look at really if you really look at what's happening with the economy, I think tomorrow I'm going to do K-shaped economy because the economy really, really sucks for most Americans. It really does. It's bad. And we're going to start feeling it a lot more. And, now the holiday season is over and those temporary workers are not laid off again. They're not paying their bills. And then you're going to also have on top of that, we're starting to feel the effects of there, that's what we're going to start feeling the effects of the mass deportations in the labor or in the agriculture area, where farmers aren't going to be able to harvest their crops. People really have no idea how bad the economy is about to get. No soup for you. That's right. Kitty, the soup denier. Toenail did not see that coming. UPS had to cut 30,000 jobs last June because of how bad the market got. Las Vegas only had a 6% decrease in visitation, and they've lost 30% of their market share. And it's only going to get worse. That's only going to get worse. As we do worse and worse on with this ICE scenario, we're already like just being hammered on the tourist front. Like foreign tourists is way down, and it's going to be even worse. People don't want to come over here for some odd reason. People don't want to come over here to get the crap beaten out of them and thrown into a detention center because they forgot their passport at their hotel. Like, I don't know what it is. Just a hunch. We're about to have a food crisis. I'm like canning food and stuff. I have about 6 months of food that I can live off of between like I've been doing canning, freezing, and the hydrating. People thought it was hard to find things during the pandemic. Imagine how hard it's going to be now that we're on our second consecutive year of crops rotting in the field. And yeah, we're just and this is a compounding thing because people like farmers, especially the small farmers, they were able to like they the first season they go bad and they just absorb it. The second season they have to go into a debt to buy their seeds and to sow the plants for the next. So the second and third season that they can't sow their crop, they start going out of business. And based on like Wharton projections, we can lose as many as 30% of our small privately owned farms over the next 4 years. And that affects an economy. Yes, and that's another thing. They even have apps. So what he's referring to is people started boycotting bourbon in Canada. Like Kentucky bourbon, right? That's like now they have, and people like they started taking like cereal boxes or whatever. If something was US made, they turn it upside down to let people know not to buy it. People aren't buying US products. In Europe now they have apps where you can check your app and see if it was made in America, and people are deliberately choosing to not buy American. That all has a ripple effect. That ends up costing American jobs. And here's the other thing. It's also preventing people, as well, Donald Trump wants to talk about, you know, all these trillions of dollars that are being invested in America. It's actually the opposite is happening. We saw it's foreign investment dollars, I think they're called. That's actual money invested by foreign countries in America. Went down last year, not up, down. Foreign countries invested less money in America last year. All these little promises and everything, they mean nothing. What matters is money that's actually spent. You can't cash a promise. And all these promises, take place after Donald Trump isn't president anymore. So, yeah, that's called kicking the can down the road until you run out of Donald Trump. Yes, and they're being taken over by huge corporations for non-arable purposes. And a lot of the food that's being grown by them is different types of food. It's like we're going into soybeans, things that are easier to automate. And then we've got tariffs on the imported food. Assuming they are able to keep their farmland, many are going to face huge civil penalties because their crops reseeded themselves outside of their licensing agreement. Yes. Yeah, this is all like really true. A lot of this is really, I just need to, so this is all great stuff, but I'm getting myself distracted by your being interesting, Mouse. Sorry, I need to get back to the TPS thing. But this is all like one of the reasons I'm even talking about TPS is that I think that people are missing how critical undocumented migrants are, and how, and not just undocumented migrants, the what I call low wage migrants are so critical to our economy and have been throughout our history. So Trump wants to say that the problem with TPS is that people abuse it. It's like, oh, well, now you're just going to invite everybody from Haiti to come over here. But here's the problem. He says Biden abused TPS by expanding it, used to tie the hands of incoming administration, creates incentive for illegal immigration. So this idea that, oh, okay, Haiti has TPS status, so now people from Haiti are just going to come over here. But the way the law is written, as I was saying earlier, you have to be over here before it happens. So you can't move over here once TPS status is declared. So this does not create an incentive for illegal immigration. And second, and then all of the things, like somebody was talking about, Biden doesn't understand, blah, 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 blah. Well, he followed the law. He followed the statutory procedures, the ones that Trump is ignoring. Expansions responded to worsening conditions, like legitimately, accurately worsening conditions, Venezuela, Afghanistan, and Ukraine. Does anybody really want to argue that nothing changed in those places? TPS only protects people already here. It doesn't allow new entry. Courts have found Trump terminations, not Biden extensions, violated the law. Again, courts matter. You can't just say it's a liberal court or, it's a activist judge or something like that. It's a legally appointed judge. You don't get to decide which judicial things apply to you. Okay. All right. So all those bills, from the 300K government workers down to the little old lady cashier, down to the guy who bags your groceries, are affected in that single line. Yep. And it works both directions. They're trying to classify people as able-bodied adults without defendants in order to force more people onto the fields again for the prices they were barely tolerating for the contractors. And the other part of that is that there are more jobs held by undocumented people than there are unemployed Americans, like jobless Americans, period, of all kinds. If every single jobless American were to take an undocumented person's job and that person were to leave, we would not be able to fill all the jobs. And it's not like every single person that's jobless can take any job that is available. Not some jobs are not in proximity. Some jobs are not doable. Like not everybody can go out and pick strawberries. Not everybody has got the physical capacity to do that. Oh, whoops. Mouse. Oh, yeah. Okay. Can't teach Trumpers MAGA. The legacy news agencies can show MAGA a lit torch and tell MAGA it was hot, and MAGA would call it fake news. Then they would grab the lit torch by the lit end, and they would blame Dems for making it hot just to prove Trump was bad or something. Like everything is eventually the Dems' fault, even Republicans' own, even MAGA's own stupidity. In the 2030 agenda, UBI for all. There's I want to talk about, I need to do some more research on this, but I've heard another alternative example for that, and I have to do some research to figure out kind of what the difference is, but there was some, I have to ask him. But my brother has a PhD from Wharton, and he was the one that was talking about it, so he kind of knows a little bit about the economy. But he was talking about a negative income tax instead of UBI. Like, so you're not giving everybody a certain amount of income, but for people that lack income, they get like a negative income so that they can, keep everybody at least at a certain level. And then the more money you make, the less negative income tax you get until you start paying taxes based on how much you make. So there's always an incentive to make money, but there's like always enough money to survive, which I thought that was I think that's an interesting idea. My overarching tinfoil hat theory is that things end July 3rd, 2026, when the last substantive EO says that all true patriots will be in full attendance for the 250th celebration. What I have found, it looks like these CBDC are coming anyway. What is CBDC? We want UBI the same way we want a flat tax. We don't. Yeah. I don't like, there was a time when I was entertained by the idea of flat tax until I started thinking about it. Progressive tax is the way to go. I think we want to like inherently for some reason believe there's something wrong with it. There's not. Extension. Okay, redesignation versus extension distinction. So an extension renews for TPS, back to TPS, the redesignation versus extension distinction. So you can have a redesignation of a TPS or you can have an extension. An extension renews protection for people already enrolled. Same cutoff date, just extends the timeline. So if you came over here March 8th, 2022, or 2021 from Venezuela, if you were over here before then and there's an extension, that's all that matters. Like you were here before that date. Redesignation actually sets a new cutoff date. So there was a Venezuela 2021 date, then there was a redesignation in of Venezuela in 2023 with a cutoff of July 31st. So that kind of moves up the starting point. So as long as you were here before July 31st, 2023, you qualified for TPS. Versus an extension would have just applied to if you were before 2021. So an extension is like sets a new date. Or extension means you're still using the old date. A redesignation sets a new date. That's what I'm trying to say. The green card impossibility for many. So this is another thing, and I think it's one of those things that like we should talk about these things and think about these things when we talk about incentives to do it versus not do it. Okay, so if you've got to get a green card, you have to have entered legally. To ever get a green card, you have to have entered legally. Many TPS holders entered illegally, though. TPS gave them legal status, but no path forward. To adjust to green card, they need to leave the U.S., but leaving triggers 3 or 10-year-old bars to reentry. So let's say somebody came over here illegally when they were 3. They came over here illegally with their parents, and they were 3, and they didn't stomp their feet and say, "No, mother and father, crossing over the border is illegal. I refuse to participate. Give me back my bunny." Like they came over here when they were 3 illegally. And so now it's 20 years later, they're 23. They want to get married and to their American person. The only country they've ever known is America. They've gone to school in America. They've gone to college in America. They fell in love with an American. But they can't get married to this American because they entered illegally. And if they go back, then they have to wait 3 to 10 years before they can even try to come back over. So there's an element of humanity lost in our current legal situation. We need to put humanity into this. I understand if you want to say, they were an adult when they came over here. But what if they weren't? And they've never broken a law. You're going to tell me that a 3-year-old is responsible for having entered illegally? Where is the humanity in a thought process like that? And this is why I think sometimes I talk about this all the time on this show, that we need to reevaluate our immigration laws instead of just bickering over whether or not the border is open or closed. We need to have an honest discussion about what our laws are, what is good for the country, what is humane, what is not humane. So, want to make another distinction about this whole activist judge thing. Judges are not saying that Haiti is too dangerous. That's a policy judgment. They're not saying Trump can't end TPS. That's a policy judgment. What judges are saying is that you must actually review the country conditions. That's a procedural requirement according to the written law that Congress passed. They're reviewing what the Constitution says about how the executive branch is supposed to enforce the laws passed by the legislative branch. You can't just decide first and justify later. That's bypassing the actual APA requirement. And your stated reasons can't contradict the actual evidence. You can't just say it's safe while the State Department is saying it's not safe. But sadly, it's all coming down to the Supreme Court. The lower courts say terminations are procedurally unlawful, and they are objectively, factually saying that. And the Supreme Court may say the executive board has broad discretion anyway. They're not even trying to defend what the executive branch is doing. They're just trying to change historical precedent. And right now, they're not even doing that. They're just pretending it doesn't matter. We're just going to kick the can down the road. But in the meantime, go ahead and send people to their deaths. So this creates a conflict between the administrative law and immigration enforcement. The real issue right now, one of the big issues is the Supreme Court not having the stones to actually do what it's supposed to be doing. If you want to make a ruling, but explain yourself. That's the way the Supreme Court is supposed to operate. Explain why all of a sudden the entire history of the country doesn't apply. Why Donald Trump is the first president that doesn't have to execute the laws the way they're written. Explain to us why Donald Trump deserves to be an authoritarian dictator. But Joe Biden can't forgive student debt. So the key takeaways from this whole conversation: TPS doesn't expire automatically. It requires affirmative review and determination, which TPS, which hasn't happened, doesn't actually have the legislated review. TPS isn't a way to enter the US. It only protects people who are already here. TPS provides no path to citizenship. People can be legally here for decades in limbo. Courts are blocking terminations for procedure violations, not making policy judgments. The evidence contradicts safety claims. Deportees are being killed and kidnapped. And 1.3 million people are in legal uncertainty waiting for final court rulings. And it's not just those 1.3 million people. For a lot of them, it's their children. For most of them, it's like their bosses, maybe their employees, maybe their spouses. It's not just these 1.3 million people. There are plenty of American citizens, including family members, who these decisions depend on. And not all of these people have ever done anything at all illegal. Most of them haven't, including come over here illegally. So these are the sources. As I said, this is all available in the description section. You can access this slideshow anytime you want. And so these are just some things in the description section of on YouTube, by the way, and soon to be on machinepunkelly.com. If deportees are being killed, so these are just some questions to throw out there. If deportees are being killed, should that affect legal determinations or safety? Like, should we consider that people being sent back to Haiti are being murdered? When we're talking about temporary protection status to protect the lives of people that are, going to be killed if they are sent back, should we actually consider the fact that they are being killed when they are sent back? How long can temporary protection status last when conditions don't improve? If there is a time limit on that of 10 years or 20 years, should that be in the legislation, or is that up just to the whims of the president? Should administrative law requirements apply equally in immigration cases? Does immigration mean that administrative law suddenly changes to however the president feels today? What happens to U.S. citizen children when parents lose TPS? This is goes back to the humanity thing. Do you deport an American citizen because their parents were here on TPS? Even if their parents never did anything illegal and they didn't do anything illegal? These are honest questions people should ask. Can the U.S. system sustain 1.3 million people in permanent legal in limbo? And I think a lot of these questions that, these that are rhetorical right here, or maybe not rhetorical. I mean, rhetorical in the sense that they should require thoughtful responses, not in that they're obvious answers. We need to have real discussions about immigration reform. And I think that one of the biggest problems in our country right now is that we have made everything so binary, so left or right, so woke or MAGA, that we can't have honest discussions and real discussions about real problems that face real people. These are not bad people. These are not evil people. These are people that are trying to avoid the bad people and the evil people. They just don't want to be murdered. So anyway, I think we need to have more honest conversations, and we need to have less divisive rhetoric, and we need to have less false dichotomies. Like, we need really, really, really to actually talk about things. And I don't understand. I mean, I do and I don't. I don't understand why MAGA can't actually ever seem to entertain an honest conversation about these things. So, Terran Warrior. The Constitution is the only document you need to read and not those damn codes of law garbage. Well, no, you need to read the laws too. The Constitution just tells us how laws are made, how laws are enforced, and how laws are reviewed. But you actually need the laws themselves too. They're using it the same way we think of restraining orders. Pig sort didn't happen. Yeah. Okay. Here's a picture of her with her head chopped off. Okay. Yeah, I guess she shouldn't have been sent back then. Oh, well. Mistakes happen. I love it when they say mistakes happen. That's exactly why we're saying we need to talk about these things. Because mistakes happen. Oh, we're back to... Thought you're trying to... Okay. We scrolled up past before Toenail got excommunicated. If you are not a criminal, why will you go to a criminal court? Well, you wouldn't go to a criminal court. I don't understand what the... No other judge is allowed to be judge, jury, and executioner. Right. Why should the people who don't need a law degree be allowed to issue the sentence? Why do people that don't even need a high school diploma be allowed to issue that sentence? I've just been... One thing I really wish is that people that have the strongest opinions on these laws would actually read these laws. Like, the laws matter. I really think the laws matter. We can't just ignore what the actual laws actually say. When it comes to asylum, when it comes to TPS, like, we can learn things. I learned something going through this. Like, I did not realize there's no such thing as coming over here on TPS status. But I learned something, right? And so I passed that on. And I think that we need more people with the spirit of learning and less people with the spirit of arguing. But anyway, we got through the whole slideshow. I didn't think I would. And sorry again that it was too big for the screen and didn't fit well, but oh well. You can still look at it if you want. It boggles my mind that people encourage these judges to send people back on want amounts to death sentence. It's really sad to me. It's just sad. Like, where is the humanity? And it's like the people that say the most about, they're Christians. They're not Christian. This is not a Christian attitude. So anyway. All right. Anyway, Mouse, if you haven't already subscribed, hopefully you will. It was nice talking to you and getting to know you. You've been a great participant in the show. And I think that about covers it. We're going to end just a bit early today. Almost got to 4 hours, but I think we pretty much covered it all. So I will see you guys around and about on the show tomorrow. Have a good one.